The story begins with a building collapsing. People were calling for an ambulance. Inside the wreckage, a man lay trapped. He believed his luck had finally run out. His whole life had been filled with bad luck. No matter how hard he tried, things always went wrong. He lived without expectations. If he ever got the chance to live again, he wouldn't wish for happiness. He just wanted a normal life. Not a meaningless one, but a simple life where he could do some good from time to time. Then the scene shifted to a woman named Leah. She had just given birth to a baby boy. The nurse told her that the baby was healthy. Overjoyed, she and her family named him Siegbert. The newborn, however, had a shocking realization. He had really been reincarnated. He was now a baby. A flashback followed, showing what happened after the man's death. After being crushed by a steel pole from a collapsing building, he found himself in an unfamiliar place. Confused, he wondered how he was still conscious. A man appeared before him and thanked him for his hard work. This man introduced himself as the keeper of life and death. He explained that this place existed between life and death. The keeper told him that his life had already been completed, acknowledging that it had been filled with misfortune, but there was no need to worry. He would soon reincarnate into a completely new world. Not only that, but he would also receive special advantages. Without warning, the keeper threw a contract at him. He explained the conditions. First, the man would keep the memories of his past life. Soon after reincarnating, he would be able to understand the language of his new world. The blessing of reincarnation would grant him many useful benefits and points. Most importantly, he would receive a special ability, appraisal eyes. These eyes had an incredible power that would allow him to judge and evaluate anything he saw. The keeper hinted that this ability was even more special in his case. He assured him that once he used it, he would understand just how powerful it truly was. The final part of the reincarnation lottery had arrived. The protagonist found it very suspicious. He wanted an explanation about the world, but he had no choice except to accept reality. He received a golden bead and thought that even with his terrible luck, he had still gotten something valuable. The keeper gave him a questioning look and said that he had received that world, as expected for someone with luck. Without any delay, the keeper threw him into the chosen world. As he fell, he realized that the keeper's smiling face would be the last memory of his previous life. After that, the story shifted to the present. Siegbert, the protagonist, was now a baby. He looked small and cute. His mother, Leah, asked if he recognized her face. Sieg saw his new mother's face clearly. His father, Gilbert, was also there and said that Sieg looked healthy. Leah told Gilbert not to be too rough with the baby since his neck was still weak. Sieg wanted to understand who he was and learn about this world as quickly as possible. However, since he was still a baby, he couldn't talk or walk. He noticed his father's clothes and confirmed that he had truly been reborn in another world. Then he remembered what the keeper had said about magic with special benefits. The keeper had mentioned something called appraisal eyes. Siegbert immediately decided to use them, but then realized that the keeper had never explained how to activate them. Determined, he tried to sense their power. Suddenly, many windows appeared in front of him. Sieg quickly adapted because they looked like game windows. To be honest, he didn't fully understand everything, but it was nice to know he had already gained all the magic attributes. However, when he checked his ability values, his luck stat was at 200, while his other stats were very low. His magic was at 100. Two little kids arrived. One had a big smile, her name was Ariane. The other looked shy, his name was Theobald. The maid told them to be quiet because Leah and Sieg still needed rest. Ariane's face fell and she apologized. She had been too excited to meet Sieg for the first time. Theo promised to be more careful next time. Ariane looked at her little brother and said he was adorable. She added that when their older brother saw him, he would spoil him. Theo said Sieg looked like their mother, which made him so cute. But from a baby's perspective, it was scary. Feeling nervous, Sieg grabbed Theo's finger. The children got excited and said they wanted to play with him. Ariane thought Sieg looked like a doll and wanted to dress him in cute doll clothes, but Theo reminded her that Siegbert was a boy and probably wouldn't like that. Sieg felt scared because he didn't want them to play too roughly with him. Ariane thanked him for being born. Leah felt happy seeing them get along so well. Sieg found it hard to believe that his family was so warm and kind. Despite his bad luck in his past life, he was truly grateful to have been born into this family. Leah reminded everyone that the initial appraisal was scheduled for tomorrow and they planned to ask Willie to handle it. When Sieg heard this, he wondered what an initial appraisal was. Gilbert, however, was not happy. He said he didn't trust the appraisers, especially after what happened with Gelt. But Leah reassured him, saying that if Willie did it, everything would be fine. Sieg was hearing these names for the first time. Willie was the uncle of the children. Theo mentioned that their uncle worked far away. He was a great knight, always traveling for missions, and at the moment he was outside the country. Then Theo asked if Sieg really needed the initial appraisal. What if something like what happened to Gelt happened again? Ariane explained that Gelt was another brother, but he wasn't home right now. He was at the magic school. She also explained that the initial appraisal was a common practice for noble children. It was done to check their aptitude for magic. If a child had magic potential, they would learn spells suited to them. If not, they would train in martial arts instead. This process was important because it helped decide how the family's successor would be trained. Theo then asked what would happen if Sieg had an aptitude for advanced level magic. Gelt, for example, had been forced to join the Magic Academy at the age of 5. The adults said it was to help him grow into a great magician, but most children who went there never came back. Gelt had cried a lot because he didn't want to leave his mother. That all happened because the appraiser revealed his magic attributes. Gilbert reassured Theo that this time he would protect Sieg no matter what. A baby born with advanced level magic would be taken to the magic school, and Sieg was afraid because he knew he had that aptitude. If the truth came out, his family would be heartbroken, and he would be forced to study alone. He had hoped for a peaceful life, but now he wondered if his bad luck was still following him, even in this world. He asked himself what he could do next. That night, Sieg was alone with a maid, trying to remove his element, but he couldn't. He had to do something about his advanced attribute by the next day. Just having one of these elements could cause trouble if he got caught, but having all of them could lead to more than just being locked up in magic school. On top of that, the suspicious keeper had mentioned that there was something special about him. Sieg knew he couldn't handle this alone, so he needed help. Suddenly, something appeared in front of him and called him its master. Sieg was startled. The strange being introduced itself as an explanation system or helper. It told him that anything he couldn't understand through appraisal would be explained by the system. In this world, people with appraisal eyes could sense abilities to some degree, but only a rare master with special appraisal eyes could see detailed information. Helper suggested that Sieg learn the concealment skill if he wanted to hide his status. Sieg asked how to use it, but the system told him that he hadn't acquired the skill yet. When Sieg asked how to learn it, the helper explained that, unlike magic, the ability wasn't tied to any attribute. However, there wasn't enough time. Learning the concealment skill on his own by tomorrow was impossible. Then, Helper reminded him that he still had the reincarnation blessing with 1,000 points. Sieg admitted that he didn't know how to use them. The system explained that with these points, he could gain useful skills without much effort. If he spent all 1,000 points, he could get the highest grade concealment skill, allowing him to hide from even the special appraisal eyes. Sieg decided to use the points immediately. However, Helper warned him that 1,000 points was a lot, and from now on, learning new abilities would take much more effort. Sieg thought about his family. He knew it was a big sacrifice, but he didn't care. Right now, his top priority was making sure his family, who loved him so much, wouldn't have to worry about him. The next day, Willie arrived at their home. Gilbert complained about how famous Willie was among the maids. Willie then greeted Leah and told her she was still beautiful. The jealous husband then warned him. Then Willie took Sieg's hand, asked if he was nervous, and introduced himself as Sieg's uncle. Willie used his appraisal ability to check Sieg's abilities. Meanwhile, Sieg silently prayed to be left in peace. Gilbert asked Willie if Sieg had any sign of the light or holy element. Willie replied that Sieg had aptitudes for fire, wind, earth, water, and void. An impressive combination, but he lacked any advanced aptitudes. Sieg felt relieved. After discussing with his helper, he decided not to have all possible attributes, even if they were weaker ones. Instead, he limited himself to 5. Light and dark elements seemed rare blessings. His appraisal eyes and other special abilities given by the keeper were hidden. Willie then told Leah that Sieg had natural resistance to poison, paralysis, darkness, curses, and other abnormal conditions. He had inherited these resistance skills from his mother. Leah felt overjoyed, and both of them were happy. Sieg didn't hide any inherited resistance abilities because he saw them as a precious gift from his mother. He made a note to thank his helper later for assisting him. Willie decided to check more details about Sieg's body and magic. From what he saw, he was sure Sieg would become someone remarkable. Suddenly, Willie noticed many wings appearing around Sieg. Gilbert, seeing Willie's reaction, asked what was wrong. Willie explained that Sieg might be one of the lucky ones. Gilbert was stunned. Willie revealed that when he used his appraisal eyes, a person's fortune appeared in the form of wings. This was the first time he had ever seen wings this huge. He had always believed that people loved by the gods known as the lucky ones only existed in fairy tales. Sieg was shocked. In his past life, he had only experienced bad luck, but now he had become someone special. Willie continued, saying that not only did Sieg have those wings, but he also had an enormous amount of magic power, even more than Willie had at birth. He called this a level beyond a prodigy. If this information became public, the Ministry of Magic would not remain silent. Sieg was even more surprised. This was beyond what he had expected. Although he was grateful for his abilities, he didn't want his family to go through any painful experiences because of them. Sieg wondered what would happen next. He looked at his luck stat and thought that the number was too high to be real. He didn't understand what it meant. Willie explained that luck was a gift from God to those he favored. He said there was a saying that if someone had the power to seize opportunities, they could even become a god. A lucky person was rare and full of mystery. The Ministry of Magic would surely try to experiment on Sieg. Gilbert became very sad. Sieg looked at him and thought, no way, he never wanted his family to go through painful memories. But Leah was happy. She said she was proud to be the mother of such a talented child who was even loved by the gods. Leah then asked Gilbert to protect Sieg. Gilbert promised that he would. Gilbert told Willie that the real problem was announcing the results of Sieg's appraisal. Willie decided they would only reveal his magic element for now. He explained that nobles usually announce the results of their initial appraisals just to show off the prestige of their air element. However, Gilbert found it strange not to mention Sieg's magic power. Willie reassured him that no one would question it since the country's top knight, the vice knight, would be making the announcement. He knew his brother was well trusted by the people. Gilbert finally agreed. Sieg was impressed by how the atmosphere quickly calmed down. Leah then chose to keep Sieg's special power a secret from everyone else. Willie agreed, saying it would stay between the 5 of them. He realized there were 2 more people listening. Ariane and Theo had been hiding behind the door, eavesdropping since the appraisal began. Willie caught them and told them that listening to adult conversations was not a good habit. Ariane tried to take all the blame, but Theo also stepped in to take responsibility. Willie told them he wasn't angry. Ariane mentioned that the teachers at the magic school were very excited. They were expecting another special student. If Sieg had advanced elements, she would have tried to convince her father to announce it. Leah thanked them and assured them that their father would protect Sieg, so they didn't need to worry. Sieg was so happy that he cried tears of joy. Willie warned them not to tell anyone about what they had heard. They got scared and quickly agreed. Even Sieg felt nervous, thinking that Willie might be a scary person. Willie was amazed at how his brother had good kids, and Gilbert totally agreed. With the help of Sieg's uncle and others, only his magic elements were made public. The Ministry of Magic didn't take him away. A few months later, Sieg discovered that the bad luck he had in his previous life was actually a mistake. Helper explained that while looking through Sieg's past memories, he found that someone had deliberately changed his luck stat to an abnormally low value. Sieg had died in an accident in his previous life due to bad luck, but that seemed to be a way of balancing out his original, incredibly high luck. Helper guessed that the life and death guides had forced Sieg to be reincarnated to cover up the situation. He wasn't sure if it was a mistake or done on purpose, but he thought the unusually strong blessing and benefits were meant as compensation. He felt foolish for believing he was special, and cursed the keeper. Sieg then asked the Helper if he had been lucky from the start and if he was still connected to it in this life. Helper confirmed that it was true while acting like a game show host with a ringing bell. Around Sieg there were stacks of books. Helper asked why there were so many. Sieg explained that they were all beginner-level magic books. The maid seemed confused by the sight of a baby so focused on reading, but being surrounded by books made Sieg feel at ease. Whenever the maids left him alone for a short time, he decided to use his language mastery skill to learn magic. In his past life, Sieg had been a bookworm, so this was his chance to study magic properly. Over the past few months, he had learned a lot. He discovered that there were 12 elements of magic, and to use one, a person needed to have the matching element. Luckily, Sieg had all of them. The strength of magic depended on the user's magic power, but the most important part was visualization. If the image in the mind was unclear, the magic wouldn't work. The more detailed the visualization, the better the magic would perform. That was why even the same spell could look different for each person. Today, Sieg was finally going to try Luminance, a beginner-level light spell. Luminance created light in the darkness. The first step was to let magic flow through his body. As he focused, he felt warmth spread inside him. Then he pictured a dark road glowing with fireflies, just like in his past life. Suddenly, his room lit up. It felt like a dream. Sieg was thrilled and eager to learn more magic. Wanting to test his limits, he tried to visualize the bright lights of a theater. However, the light became too strong, nearly making him pass out. It was clear, he still had a long way to go. Just then, Gilbert arrived and was shocked. In another room, Sieg was also surprised. A maid was asking Leah how she was feeling, and she told her that she had calmed down. Leah was holding a photo of Gilbert and said that he was okay. Just then, Gilbert appeared, carrying Sieg in his arms. He told Leah that Sieg had been standing. The maid asked Gilbert not to speak rudely to Leah. Gilbert took a deep breath and calmed down before repeating that Sieg had stood up. He then placed Sieg on the ground and saw that he was actually standing. Sieg panicked, thinking he had been caught using magic, but he soon realized he was wrong. Instead of noticing the magic, his father was simply surprised that he could already stand. Gilbert then asked him to walk toward his mother. Sieg thought he wasn't ready to walk yet, but he also didn't want to disappoint his mother. With great effort, he took a few shaky steps toward Leah. After just 2 steps, he was already exhausted. Leah praised him, and Gilbert did too, saying he never expected Sieg to learn to walk so quickly. Gilbert held him so tightly that Sieg thought his neck was going to break. Butler Hans appeared behind Gilbert and asked him how long he planned to ignore his duties. His face looked angry as he told Gilbert to return. Leah thanked Gilbert for bringing Sieg to her. She then asked her maid, Anna, to bring some books from Sieg's room. Sieg felt very tired after using magic and walking. His mother told him to rest. She smiled and said she was really happy because he would turn 1 year old soon and was learning to walk very fast. Sieg looked at her and thought she seemed different today. She told him to live freely without feeling pressured to act like a noble. She knew he would face difficulties, but she hoped he wouldn't regret his choices. She wanted him to grow stronger and kinder than anyone else. Tears ran down her face as she promised to always be on his side. She kissed Sieg on the forehead and told him to remember the time they spent together. Suddenly, she collapsed. Anna arrived and was shocked to see Leah like that. Sieg was also frozen in shock. Somewhere else, a child was studying when someone told him he had received a letter. At first, he told them not to disturb him, but his expression changed when he heard the news. His mother had just passed away. After that, we could see Leah's tomb and the whole family was grieving. Albert, the eldest son, arrived to help with the family's problems. Willie told Gilbert that most of the funeral was finished and that he would take care of the remaining work. He asked Gilbert to rest because he hadn't slept for many days since Leah passed away. However, Gilbert said he wanted to stay with Leah until the very end and send her off himself. During the funeral speech, Sieg learned that Leah had suffered from an incurable disease. It was also said that it was a miracle she had been able to give birth to him. Even though he was the closest to her, he never knew she was sick. Leah always looked beautiful and full of life, never showing any signs of pain. Sieg regretted not using his appraisal skill on her. If he had, he would have realized she was ill, and with his special blessing he might have learned magic that could have cured her. Albert, who was holding Ariane, noticed Theo walking somewhere and asked where he was going. Theo said he was going to greet Gelt because he had loved their mother more than anyone. When Theo opened the door, he saw a maid trying to stop Gelt. Theo tried to speak to him, but Gelt suddenly attacked Sieg, blaming him for their mother's death. Anna held Sieg tightly as he used a light wall to block Gelt's attack. However, Gelt's thunder spear still managed to injure them. Gelt tried to finish Sieg off, but Albert jumped just in time to stop him. Sieg and Anna lay on the ground, wounded. Theo said he and Ariane would use healing magic and told someone to call their father and uncle. Albert held Gelt down and demanded to know why he was doing this. Gelt shouted that if Sieg had never been born, their mother wouldn't have died. Albert told him to stop saying such foolish things. He explained that because of Sieg, their mother's health had improved, giving her enough time to create final memories with her children. This only happened because of Sieg. Even after hearing this, Gelt remained angry and still blamed Sieg for their mother's death. Willie arrived and told Albert to step away. He used his magic to lock Gelt in place and even placed cuffs on his hands. Willie commended Albert for the good reaction. Gilbert also arrived. Willie then used water healing to heal Anna and Sieg. He also praised Theo and Ariane for handling the situation well. Willie asked Anna if she was okay, and she assured him that she was fine. He then informed Gilbert that Sieg was safe, along with Ariane and Theo. Willie suggested that Anna should rest, but she insisted on continuing her work without a break. Ariane turned to Gelt and asked why he had done such terrible things. She told him that their mother's death had nothing to do with Sieg. However, Gelt claimed that they were all being deceived. Despite this, Ariane remained by Sieg's side and demanded that Gelt promise never to do this again. Gelt refused, still holding on to his resentment. Ariane then asked Gilbert to keep Gelt away from Sieg. She warned Gelt that if he ever did something like this again, she would never forgive him. Willie told Gilbert that they needed to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, Gelt watched them and wondered why everything always revolved around Sieg. Ever since his birth, Sieg had been the center of attention. Gelt was always the one left out, ignored, and forgotten. Sieg, who had always been by their mother's side, shared her hair and eyes. Everyone loved him. Gelt believed that Sieg had stolen his place and their mother's love. That was why he could never forgive him. After that, Sieg finally woke up. His siblings felt very happy to see him awake. Sieg thought back and believed that his older brother Gelt had hit him. He remembered the way Gelt looked at him during the funeral. That hateful and terrifying gaze was burned into his mind. Theo and Ariane apologized to Sieg because they couldn't stop Gelt. But Sieg didn't think they were truly bad. Willie told them he had been using surveillance magic, so if Gelt ever got close to Sieg again, it would alert either him or Gilbert. He told the two not to worry further. Ariane then promised to protect Sieg no matter what, but soon after, she fell asleep. Willie explained that she had gotten tired from using healing magic. He was also relieved that Theo had held back. Theo understood that none of this was Sieg's fault. In fact, because of Sieg, they were able to spend warm and precious moments with their mother before she passed away. Willie felt the same way and gave Sieg a reassuring pat. Sieg never knew they thought of him like that, especially since he felt like he hadn't done anything. Willie then told Theo and Ariane to rest as he would stay with Sieg. Before resting, Theo thanked Willie for saving Sieg. Willie simply smiled in response. After that, Willie entered another room and praised Gilbert for his work. He then asked Gilbert about Gelt. Gilbert replied that no matter what Willie said, Gelt wouldn't listen. He was filled with hate and resentment towards Sieg. Gilbert explained that their father had learned about the situation and was willing to take Gelt in. However, now that things had turned out this way, Gilbert couldn't allow Gelt to enter the mansion again. It was a sad decision, but he felt it was best to leave Gelt with their father. Willie then told Gilbert that during the incident, he had used his appraisal skill on Gelt and discovered that Gelt wasn't brainwashed. This meant that someone might have spread false information or that some kind of mind-contaminating magic was involved. The magic school seemed suspicious. Gilbert agreed but wondered if these were truly Gelt's real feelings. Willie doubted that a child could cause so much trouble alone and suggested searching inside the magic school first. There had to be something hidden there. Gilbert immediately decided to go, but his legs gave out. Willie told him that both his body and heart had reached their limit, so he needed to rest. Willie volunteered to handle the situation and promised to find out the truth. Gilbert apologized to Leah for being unable to do anything. Later on the balcony, Willie looked around with anger. He called himself worthless because he had failed to protect anything. He warned the person responsible to be ready for punishment. After this incident, everyone changed, and Sieg also changed. To protect his family, he trained hard, even as a child. He read books to learn magic and become stronger, determined to have no regrets. He always remembered his mother. 4 years later, Sieg went to Theo and asked him to take him along to defeat monsters. Theo was shocked when Sieg told him that he knew about his secret work with the Adventurers Guild. Sieg also mentioned that Theo was meeting someone named Nikolai that day to defeat some monsters. Stunned, Theo asked how he knew. Sieg couldn't share that he could see this information using his appraisal eyes, which allowed him to read the status details he had gathered earlier with the help of Helper. It seemed that Theo planned to defeat the monsters alongside an adventurer named Nikolai. However, Theo told Sieg it was too soon for him to get involved. He warned him not to beg because he would never take along a kid who couldn't defeat a monster, even if that kid was his little brother. In response, Sieg used magic right in front of him, proving that he could fight. Theo was shocked. Sieg shouldn't have been able to handle such magic yet, but Sieg confidently told him that he could do even more. He had learned through practice that simply using magic wasn't enough to increase its power. We saw a flashback of Sieg training to become stronger. He said that even though he had a lot of magic power, he couldn't use advanced skills, and his magic power wasn't increasing. His helper explained that this was because he wasn't using his level properly. In this world, people naturally absorbed the power released when they defeated monsters and turned it into their own strength. The helper used Sieg's status to show how this worked in the level and experience system. At level 1, Sieg's magic power was 100. If he didn't increase his level by defeating monsters, his magic power would stay the same, and he wouldn't be able to use stronger magic. That was why he wanted Theo to take him along. Theo asked why he was in such a hurry. Sieg explained that if someone precious to him was about to die, he wouldn't be able to do anything to help. Tragedies could happen at any time, and even if it was just a little, he wanted to get stronger as fast as possible. After hearing Sieg's words, Theo remembered the time when Gelt lost control. He used his wind magic to send a message to Hans asking for a carriage and another to Nikolai. Theo agreed to take Sieg to fight monsters, but only this once. Sieg was overjoyed. Theo reminded him not to wander off, and Sieg promised to be careful. On the way, Theo told Sieg that he would let him fight the white rabbit in the forest. Sieg asked about the white rabbit, and Theo explained that it was the monster he would have to defeat during the White Hunt in a few months. The White Hunt was a tradition where a noble's child fought a monster for the first time. Theo said they could think of today's battle as practice for that event. He also mentioned that they were lucky because Ariane had gone to a tea ceremony. Otherwise, she would never have allowed Sieg to fight a monster. When they reached their destination, Theo asked Hans to pick them up at the scheduled time and to keep everything a secret. Then, Theo warned Sieg not to use magic in front of Nikolai, and Sieg agreed. Sieg held Theo's hand since he was only 5 years old, but in his mind, he felt like an adult. Seeing this, Theo felt happy and decided that he would protect Sieg. As they arrived at the wild forest, Sieg was amazed by its beauty. The entire forest was white because of a unique magic power. Many monsters lived there, but most were weak enough for even beginner adventurers to fight, making it a good place for practice. However, the forest was connected to the Hush Forest, where dangerous monsters roamed. Theo warned Sieg not to go too far. Soon Nikolai arrived. He told Theo that he was surprised by the sudden change in their hunting location. When he saw Sieg, he called him Chibi. Sieg greeted him politely and introduced himself as Theo's younger brother. Nikolai said it was a great meeting and praised the Abel family for their good upbringing. As he spoke, he held Sieg's head tightly and roughed his hair. Theo asked Nikolai not to be too rough with Sieg. Sieg thought Nikolai seemed energetic and didn't feel like a bad person. Using his appraisal eyes, Sieg saw that Nikolai was at level 17 with a D rank as an adventurer. His beginner elements were water and light, and he was 3 years older than Theo. He also seemed like a magic swordsman. Seeing this, Sieg wondered if everyone around here was naturally like him. Nikolai asked Theo if the plan for the day had changed because of the kid. Theo explained that he brought Sieg along to prepare him for next year's hunt. Sieg then told Nikolai that Theo had changed the plan because of him. He was the one who had forced Theo to let him join the hunt. To make up for it, Sieg decided to give Nia all the monster loot in exchange for cooperating with him. Nikolai praised Sieg, saying that for a kid, he knew how to negotiate well. Impressed, Nikolai offered to help with Sieg's training. He lifted Sieg onto his shoulder, and together, they set off to search for prey. As they walked, Sieg asked Theo why he was secretly hunting monsters with Nikolai. Nikolai explained that Theo was helping him pay his medical bills. He revealed that his family used to be nobles, but they had lost their wealth and were now called fallen nobles. While Nikolai could earn money for himself, his little sister had a serious illness, and he couldn't afford her treatment alone. That was why Theo was helping him. Theo added that he was also using this opportunity to practice his swordsmanship. Sieg apologized to Nikolai, saying they could have chosen a better hunting spot where Nikolai could earn more money. However, Nikolai told him not to worry about it. Just then they spotted their prey. Nikolai asked Sieg if he was ready, but Sieg told them to wait. His goal was to reach level 3 that day, and he also wanted to practice using his appraisal eyes while fighting. When he used them, he learned that the white rabbit was weak to fire, flame, dark, and cure elements. Its weak spot was just below the horn on its head. Nikolai suggested they surround the rabbit to prevent it from escaping. Sieg said he would attack from where he stood, but Nikolai thought the distance was too far. He assumed Sieg didn't know how to use magic properly yet. However, Sieg quickly cast a fireball and took down the rabbit in one shot. Nikolai was shocked, not just because of the fireball, but because Sieg had changed its shape, something that required a lot of magic power. To cover for Sieg, Theo quickly made an excuse, saying that the training methods of the Abel family were different. Theo told Nikolai that when he was a kid, he could do the same thing. Sieg thought one wasn't enough to level up, so he wanted to hunt more to increase Nikolai's reward at the same time. He asked Theo to look for more white rabbits. Theo used his wing magic called Wind Scout to search for them. He found a small group of rabbits but also sensed something strange nearby. Nalia grabbed Sieg and ran to hunt more rabbits. After killing some, Sieg finally leveled up. Theo didn't understand what leveling up meant, so Nikolai asked if he meant getting stronger. Sieg almost forgot that he was the only one who knew about the concept of levels. His magic power had increased a lot, and he could finally use one of his special blessings, Advanced Growth. However, he wasn't happy because his magic power had only gone up by 50. Even so, it was still nearly twice as much as Nikolai's. Nikolai praised Sieg for killing 8 white rabbits by hitting their weak spots. He asked if everyone from the Abel family was this strong. Theo explained that it was because their father was a great man. Sieg knew his brother would soon run out of excuses, so he had decided to hold back. That meant he couldn't reach level 3 that day. Sieg then told Nikolai that their carriage would arrive any minute to pick them up. Suddenly, a group of goblins jumped at them, but instead of attacking, they just ran past. Nicholas explained that goblins usually attacked when someone got too close. Theo noticed that those goblins were injured, which was strange because White Forest goblins were supposed to be the strongest monsters. Yet, they were running away from something. Out of nowhere, a huge tree came flying toward them, forcing them to split up. It turned out the goblins weren't running away, they had set a trap to separate them. Nikolai and Sieg ended up together, while Theo was left alone on the other side. Nikolai pointed out that goblins didn't have the intelligence to plan such a trick. But then, Theo saw a massive monster standing in front of him. It had come from the Forest of Silence. Realizing the danger, Theo shouted for Nikolai to take Sieg and run, warning that if they stayed, they would all die. The monster was a goblin general. Theo felt afraid because a B-rank monster shouldn't have been there. He recalled that the White Forest and the Silent Forest had different levels of magic energy, and a magic barrier separated them. Because of that, it should have been impossible for this goblin to be here. The goblin was also injured, and the armor it once wore was missing. Theo guessed that it had lost a battle over territory in the Silent Forest and went berserk. However, there was also a chance that it had forced its way through the barrier. The goblin general roared and ordered smaller goblins to attack Sieg and Nikolai. Theo barely dodged the goblin general's attack. Even though it was wounded, a B-rank monster with berserk state was still very hard to defeat. Theo couldn't figure out how to beat it. Though impossible, he would defeat it for the sake of protecting Sieg. Meanwhile, Sieg and Nikolai were fighting against the normal goblins. Nikolai could handle one goblin on his own, but there were too many of them. Sieg used fireballs, defeating many goblins at once. Nikolai was shocked because he wasn't strong enough to do the same. Sieg was exhausted. His level had reached 3, allowing him to use advanced magic, but his stamina was too low. If he used it now, he might faint. Even if he stayed awake, moving would be difficult. This meant he had only one chance to defeat the Goblin General. Just as the cornered Theo was about to use magic, ice spikes suddenly shot up from the ground, injuring Theo. Sieg tried to rush to his brother, but Nikolai stopped him, injuring himself in the process. It was their turn to face the Goblin General. Sieg used his appraisal eyes, which revealed the general's weakness, its forehead. However, it had a helmet magic immunity. If Sieg didn't do something about that, defeating the monster would be nearly impossible. He didn't want to lose his brother, so he had to act fast. Theo lay on the ground, remembering the day he failed to protect Sieg from Gelt. He couldn't let that happen again. Pushing himself up, he used a wind net to stop the huge monster from moving. Sieg and Nikolai saw Theo holding back the Goblin General. Theo then gave Nikolai a signal. Nikolai quickly created a light wall to block the attack, but he warned that he couldn't keep it up for long. Theo then used his self-taught wind magic to vanish from where he stood. He reappeared and unleashed his spell, Spreading Wind Needle. His attack was sharp and precise, like an assassin's. Nikolai was impressed and said he always knew Theo was incredible. But before Theo could respond, he collapsed. The Goblin General was still standing, but this time his helmet was gone. Sieg quickly turned to Nikolai and told him to throw him toward the general's head. The weak spot was the eyeball. If he could hit it with strong magic, they could win. Sieg insisted he had the power to do it. Nikolai asked what he meant, but Sieg pleaded, saying he couldn't let his family die. Understanding the urgency, Nikolai lifted Sieg and threw him toward the general. While soaring through the air, Sieg created a huge flame spear. He knew he couldn't waste the chance Theo had given him. With all his strength, he hurled the spear straight through the Goblin General's head. The attack worked. The monster was finally defeated. Nikolai stood in shock. Sieg began to fall, but Theo caught him just in time. Sieg reassured Theo that he was fine, but Theo looked upset, feeling like he hadn't protected him well enough. Sieg smiled and told Theo that because of him, they were able to win. Hearing this, Theo finally felt relieved and happy. Sieg was safe this time. Nikolai used healing magic to help them recover. He never thought they would actually be able to defeat the Goblin General. Curious, he asked Theo how he knew the general's weakness and how he managed to use such strong magic. But Theo simply said that to protect Sieg, he couldn't answer that question. Nikolai smiled and said he wouldn't ask again. He also promised not to tell anyone about what happened that day. However, in return, he wanted the Ash, a magic crystal that only dropped from high-ranking monsters. It was worth a lot of money, and with it he could take his sister to a better doctor. Sieg agreed and let him take the Ash. Even in a normal situation, Sieg's encounter with the Goblin General was incredibly bad luck. Sieg believed he was still carrying bad luck from his past life. However, Helper told him that this actually happened because he was lucky. Helper explained that Sieg needed to level up, learn advanced magic, and receive a bigger reward for Nikolai. Normally, achieving all of this at once would have been impossible. But because of his luck, a monster that wasn't supposed to be there appeared, creating a rare opportunity. This was a chance given to the lucky one. Sieg remembered Willie telling him that he was the lucky one, loved by God. He wondered if this kind of luck would continue to affect him and those around him. However, he realized that if he could take advantage of these chances, he could save the people he wanted to protect, because he had the power to do so. Meanwhile, Theo asked Sieg to wait until his wounds healed. He also planned to ask Hans to keep things a secret again. Nearby, a small monster was hiding in the bushes. This small tiger-looking cub had ended up there after a surprising incident. Some people had captured it and were taking it away in a carriage to sell it. But suddenly a Goblin General appeared and destroyed the carriage. In the chaos, the little tiger got injured. A few months later, Sieg was at the White Hunt, even where a noble kid was fighting a monster for the first time. Ariane felt happy because Sieg was hitting the White Rabbit's weak spots perfectly. She praised him. Albert was shocked. He knew Sieg could use magic, but he had no idea he had this much power. Willie was pleased and pointed out that Sieg could control his magic well. He assumed that Sieg could use even stronger magic but had lowered its power to make it seem normal. Sieg realized he couldn't hide his true abilities from Willie. Gilbert was surprised when he learned that Sieg had left the mansion. He also noted that with this kind of magic, Sieg could go on a small adventure without any trouble. Sieg thanked his father. However, Ariane was angry at Theo for taking Sieg along to fight monsters. Hans was the one who told everyone that Sieg had gone out with Theo to fight monsters. Because of this, Theo and Sieg were severely scolded. Gilbert explained that after Theo reported finding the corpse of a demon that wasn't supposed to be in the White Forest, the destroyed magic barriers had already been taken care of. At that moment, Albert was watching over everything, hoping no new problems would arise. Sieg saw his father and thought about how fast he worked. The one who had actually defeated the monster was Theo, along with Sieg and Nikolai, but no one knew about it. As a reward for his hard work, Ariane gave Sieg a hug. Just then, Sieg noticed something in the bushes. He saw a shadow he had never seen before. Something felt strange and he wanted to find out what it was. Without hesitation, he ran off, saying he was going to explore. Ariane didn't want him to go alone, but Albert assured her that Sieg would be fine in the White Forest and that they could track his location using magic. Ariane calmed down for a moment, but then she remembered when Gelt attacked Sieg. That thought worried her, so she ran after him. Albert had hoped Ariane would relax after seeing Sieg, but Willie pointed out that she had been like this ever since the incident with Gelt. Theo mentioned that when Sieg was with him, he had been hesitant but still allowed Sieg a little freedom. Ariane couldn't stand the idea of Sieg being alone, but she also knew that children were naturally curious even if they got hurt. Willie said they had no choice but to wait since Hecha couldn't be healed by any magic. Then Willie told Gilbert that he and Theo would go check the magic barrier, as he didn't feel right leaving all the work to Albert, who had gone there first. After that, Sieg finally found the little monster. This monster was called White Tiger. Its magic abilities were thunder and ice, both advanced elements. The tiger was badly injured and near death. It was scared and wondered why Sieg was following it. The tiger didn't want him to come any closer. Sieg was shocked when he realized he could understand the tiger's language. That meant the tiger was a sacred beast. He remembered reading in a book that the white tiger was an endangered and protected species. Many people never got to see one in their entire lives. He looked at the tiger's wound and quickly realized that it had been caused by high-level magic. The tiger had likely escaped from being smuggled or hunted by powerful wizards. However, Sieg didn't think about any of that for long. He just wanted to heal it. He raised his hand to use healing magic, but the tiger bit him. Even though it hurt, he didn't stop and used light heal to heal the tiger. The tiger was shocked. Sieg told it that it was now healed. Hearing that, the tiger became happy and was no longer afraid. Sieg petted the tiger and thought it was really cute, with soft, fluffy fur. He figured the tiger must have been scared for a long time. He praised it for surviving until now. The tiger, feeling comforted, happily hugged Sieg. He told him he was a good person and that he would always be grateful. Just then, an unknown magic to Sieg activated. Helper appeared and told Sieg that a contract with the white tiger had been established. Sieg was confused and asked what that meant. Helper explained that he and the white tiger had formed a blood contract. When Sieg asked what that was, Helper explained that a blood contract connected two beings by mixing their blood. This ancient contract method could only be used with high-grade magical beasts and sacred beasts. Sieg didn't remember doing anything like that. But then he noticed that the tiger was still licking his blood. Ariane appeared and hugged Sieg from behind. She mentioned that Sieg suddenly felt heavier. It was because he was holding on to the white tiger. Ariane got scared. Sieg then told his father that he had picked up a baby black cat, but Albert pointed out that its fur was too white. Sieg tried to explain by saying that if someone ate something from the White Forest, they could turn white too. Albert didn't believe him, and reminded him that the White Forest was not a place where black cats lived. Sieg quickly tried to cover it up again, saying that the white tiger must have gotten lost and wandered in when the magical barrier broke. He thought to himself that he couldn't admit the truth, that this rare and protected species had entered his father's territory and he had made a contract with it without permission. Sieg realized this was a serious problem both politically and as a noble. If the white tiger stayed with him while using concealment magic, he could hide the fact that it was a rare species. Sieg then asked Albert if he could take care of the tiger. Ariane immediately rejected the idea, saying it was too dangerous to raise a magical beast. Sieg argued that the tiger had been badly injured when he found it, so it wouldn't survive on its own. Ariane reminded him that the tiger had just bitten him. Sieg explained that it only happened because he had scared the tiger. Ariane then turned to Gilbert, asking him not to allow Sieg to keep the beast. But Sieg stood his ground. Gilbert asked Sieg to swear that he would take full responsibility for raising and protecting the tiger until the very end. With confidence, Sieg promised he would. Hearing this, Gilbert allowed him to raise the tiger. Ariane still objected, but Gilbert ignored her and even asked her to help Sieg take care of the tiger. Sieg thanked his father for trusting him. Then Gilbert asked Sieg if he was the one who had healed the tiger. When Sieg said yes, Gilbert felt proud that his son could use healing magic at such a young age. Ariane finally gave up arguing since their father had given permission, but she still didn't trust the beast. She decided to keep a close watch on it until she was sure Sieg was safe. Sieg didn't like this. Now he wouldn't be able to move freely under his obsessed sister's prying eyes. The white tiger tried to act cute in front of Ariane to show he wasn't dangerous, but Ariane refused to be fooled by its innocent act. Sieg stood outside and said he could now use advanced magic. However, he couldn't train properly because Ariane kept watching him all the time. He needed to find a way to get some time alone. While he was thinking, the white tiger asked him why he was in such a rush. Sieg explained that dangerous things would happen to his family because of him. To protect everyone, he had to become stronger. The tiger then asked if he was scared and told him to rub his fur. As Sieg rubbed him, a small smile appeared on his face. Ariane watched them from a distance. She admitted to herself that the tiger didn't seem bad, but she also knew that sometimes unexpected people could bring harm to the things they cared about the most. She thought about the recent attack on Sieg and wanted to believe the tiger wasn't dangerous. However, she still felt uneasy. She decided that if nothing bad happened that night, she would accept that the tiger wasn't a threat. Later that night, Sieg sighed in relief. Somehow he had managed to get through the day. He was certain Ariane wouldn't come when it was time to sleep, so this was his chance to practice advanced magic. But just as he was about to start, she suddenly appeared. Sieg was surprised and asked why she was there since it was already past her bedtime. Ariane told him that was exactly why she had come. She was going to sleep with him. Sieg was stunned by his current situation. He had already gotten permission from his father to keep the white tiger after saving it, but Ariane was still worried that the tiger might hurt him. She kept watching over him constantly, but he never expected her to go this far. If she stayed with him, he wouldn't be able to train. Since things had come to this, he decided to use the technique he had learned when defeating the goblin general. He had no other choice. Using spatial movement, he carefully teleported away without waking her up. When he reappeared elsewhere, he felt relieved. He couldn't use this technique in front of others, and this was his first time trying it. Luckily, it worked. Now, he could go to the White Forest to train. Just then, the tiger woke up. The beast told Sieg not to go. Sieg quickly hushed him, afraid that Ariane would wake up. The beast then said that if Sieg left alone, Ariane would be sad. Sieg reassured him that he would return before she woke up. He also told the beast to rest since he hadn't fully recovered yet. Sieg was determined. He had to become stronger to protect his family. With that, he used spatial movement again and disappeared into the night. The white tiger then looked at Ariane and then ran around in circles while thinking. In the end, it jumped out of the window and followed him. Sieg was inside the White Forest, completely exhausted. Using high-level magic drained a lot of his energy, but he was used to pushing himself to the limit. He had been training alone for a long time to prepare for the upcoming white hunt. He cast an ice spell called Ice Cluster, and it worked. He felt overjoyed because now he believed he could use other advanced magic as well. Encouraged, he decided to keep going. Next, he tried one last advanced spell, Thunder Magic. As he cast it, the magic took the shape of Gelt, which frightened him. The magic tried to attack him. Panicking, Sieg destroyed the spell. At that moment, he realized that magic in this world was deeply connected to the caster's imagination. When he had used thunder magic, his old trauma from that time caused it to go out of control. He collapsed to the ground, having used too much magic. Helper warned him that using excessive magic quickly drained physical strength. If he kept going, he would pass out. Helper urged him to stay strong, but Sieg was already losing consciousness. As he was about to faint, he remembered a promise he made to the beast, that he would return before Ariane woke up. He called himself weak and questioned why he was like this. Sieg believed he had special power, but he couldn't even save his mother. After seeing Theo get hurt, he had sworn to always be strong. And yet the trauma of being beaten by Gelt had never left his mind. He was terrified that his own weakness would crush him. With these thoughts in his head, he lost consciousness while the white tiger was rushing to his rescue. The next morning, everyone was searching for Sieg. The maid told Theo that they had already checked the main building, but he wasn't there. Theo had searched another building with Wind Scout, but still, there was no sign of Sieg. Even the beast child was missing. They called Gilbert to help widen the search. Ariane started to worry that the magical beast had done something to Sieg. The maid then mentioned that someone had seen the magical beast. Ariane immediately asked if Sieg was with it, but the maid shook her head. However, she added that the beast had been seen running outside the mansion. It was possible that it had headed toward the White Forest. Since it was late at night, the maid hadn't been sure of what she saw, so she didn't report it earlier. Hearing this, Ariane quickly realized that the beast must have been chasing after Sieg. Without wasting any time, she ran toward the White Forest. On her way, she saw the beast returning, carrying Sieg in its arms. Ariane rushed toward them and took Sieg into her arms. He was still breathing, but he was unconscious. The magical beast looked sad and licked Sieg's hand. Holding both of them close, Ariane promised that she would definitely save Sieg. After some time, Sieg opened his eyes and saw Ariane healing him. She was very happy to see him wake up and told him she had been really worried about him. Gilbert was also happy that Sieg was back, but he was angry because Sieg had gone to White Forest alone. Ariane still believed that someone else had taken Sieg to White Forest, but Sieg told her that he went there by himself. Gilbert asked why he had gone alone. Sieg knew it would take hours for a child to reach White Forest, so he couldn't tell them the truth. Instead, he said he used movement magic and had been training advanced level magic. However, he was hiding a lot from them, and he worried that he might cause even more trouble for Gilbert. While Sieg thought about what to say, Gilbert made his decision. He said he couldn't let this go, so as punishment, Sieg was not allowed to leave the mansion for 2 weeks. Surveillance magic would also be used to watch him. Sieg understood. Gilbert then said that Sieg was a smart boy who always thought about his family. He knew that Sieg hadn't left to do anything bad. Whenever Sieg hid something, it was always for his family's sake. Gilbert reassured him, saying that no one in their family was weak. Sieg didn't have to carry everything alone, he should remember to rely on his family. Sieg thought about it and realized Gilbert was right. His family wasn't weak. He had seen that many times before. He didn't have to handle everything alone. Finally, he told them that he had been training his magic alone because he didn't want to shock people with how strong it was. He believed that if he didn't become strong, people he loved, like his mother, would disappear. He had been scared. Gilbert was shocked because Sieg still remembered the time he spent with his mother. Ariane tried to calm him down, telling him that no one would leave him again. Gilbert hugged them both and promised that he would protect everyone. Later, we see Sieg lying on his bed and feeling emotional. He thought it was his first time to cry in front of others. However, his brothers returned from reporting the incident and saw him. Feeling embarrassed, Sieg realized that after telling them everything, he felt relieved. He had always wanted to be strong for his family, but deep down, he also wanted someone to rely on. He decided not to do anything reckless that would make his loved ones sad. He then thanked the White Tiger for saving him. The White Tiger told Sieg that he liked him, which was why he saved him. As a reward, he wanted Sieg to pet him. Sieg began petting Tiger, but suddenly realized that he had never given this beast a name. His full name was Siegbert, but everyone called him Sieg. So he decided to name the tiger Haku. Haku was overjoyed. They both agreed to take care of each other since they were now partners. Meanwhile, in the Abel family's main building, Gilbert was deep in thought. Sieg had started to remember the time he spent with his mother, which was good, but to Gilbert it was also a painful memory. Then he realized that he had done nothing for Sieg until now. Sieg's magical abilities and intelligence had grown so much that he was no longer seen as a child. No other child in the history of the Abel family had been this gifted. Just as he was about to speak something about Sieg, Albert and Willie arrived. Albert reported that clear magical ash had been found in White Forest. Gilbert asked for the results, and Albert explained that for the past few months, the magic crystal ash from White Forest had been analyzed. They had identified the source. It came from the Goblin General. It seemed that the goblins had broken through the magical barrier from the Silent Forest into the White Forest. Willie then mentioned that the biggest question was who could defeat such a powerful monster. From the last monster hunt, Willie and Gilbert suspected that Sieg was the one who had defeated it. Albert was shocked and refused to believe it. Gilbert pointed out that when Theo reported finding magic crystal ash, he had been hiding his wounds. Someone as strong as Theo wouldn't normally get injured in White Forest, which made the situation suspicious. Albert then asked if Theo was the one who saved Sieg from the monsters. Willie admitted that it was a possibility. Gilbert ordered them to erase any traces showing that Sieg was the one who defeated the monster, as a way to protect him. Albert then mentioned that because magic crystal ash had appeared in the market, a rumor had started among adventurers. The story claimed that a brave warrior had defeated a high-ranking monster. The tale had spread quickly. However, Albert and his team had already spread false information, saying that an elite knight had killed the monster instead. The seller of the magic crystal ash was actually Theo's friend, who had been with him at the time. Thanks to their careful planning, they kept the source a secret. Albert was able to handle the situation peacefully. Willie praised him, saying he expected nothing less from a promising member of the First Order. He then explained that the magic crystal ash had already been bought for research by the Magic Brigade's 3rd Magic Unit, which he was part of. They were conducting an experiment on the new teleportation stone under national orders. Willie planned to use these materials completely. Gilbert apologized to Albert for the trouble, but Albert said it was no problem since he did it all for his little brother. Willie then mentioned that Sieg now had advanced magic abilities and a stronger magical nature compared to Gelt, who was different. However, Sieg had not been seen in public or become a topic of discussion. They wanted to keep Sieg's unique abilities a secret from the Ministry of Magic and the Magic School for now. Gilbert wanted Sieg to live freely without being tied down by anything, which was also Leah's wish. Gilbert pointed out that Sieg was not an ordinary child. As his magic grew stronger, he also became smarter. The fact that Sieg had managed to go to the White Forest alone in such a short time was impressive. Gilbert wondered if Sieg had somehow gotten his hands on a transference stone. Willie explained that magic-infused stones were rare and expensive. If someone used a magic-infused glass stone, they could release the magic sealed inside it. Willie was certain that Sieg had learned teleportation spells or something similar. He also saw this as a great chance to observe Sieg's progress. Albert then shyly reminded his father that he had not seen Sieg at White Hunt because he had been investigating the magic barrier. He asked if there was a way he could see what had happened. Gilbert then revealed that he had used a projection stone to secretly take pictures of Sieg during the White Hunt. Now they were looking at Sieg's images. The next day, Sieg told Willie that he was very strong. Willie replied that he still had a long way to go. However, Sieg used his appraisal skills and saw everything clearly. Willie was at level 60, had many different types of magic including advanced ones, and all his stats were much higher than Sieg's. Sieg felt happy because he was learning from his uncle, so he decided to give his best in training. Unfortunately, he couldn't use advanced magic in front of Willie. At the same time, Willie was also observing Sieg. He noticed that Sieg's magic power had grown a lot. He believed that one day Sieg would surpass him at an incredible speed. Just then, Haku returned with a tree branch. Sieg praised Haku and introduced him to his uncle. He told Willie that the tiger's name was Haku. Willie used his appraisal skill to check Haku and confirmed that despite appearances, Haku was actually a black cat. Willie had never seen a black cat with such bright white fur before. He also found out that Haku had both lightning and ice magic. Willie realized that Haku had great potential. Sieg felt happy because Haku's concealment ability was working properly. However, Willie noticed something strange about Haku's magic flow. He asked for permission to touch Haku, and after checking closely, found a faint trace of magical energy. He explained that it was called magic color, a kind of lingering magical trace left behind after using advanced spells. As long as it remained, it would block the proper flow of magic. Sieg became worried and asked if the healing spell he used had failed. Willie told him that a complicated spell had been cast on Haku. It was a curse. Sieg checked Haku's stats again and saw that cursed was clearly written there. He had been too distracted earlier to notice it. Sieg assumed that it happened because he had used healing magic carelessly. Willie reassured him that it wasn't his fault. Hidden curses were often overlooked even by skilled magic users. This was a type of harassment magic, something used by wicked people. Willie took some of Haku's fur and swore that he would make the criminals responsible feel the same pain. He then explained that if the curse wasn't removed, Haku would never be able to use magic again. Sieg quickly asked if there was any way to fix it. Willie told him that a powerful divine spell called Holy Purge could remove curses of different magic types. However, Willie admitted that he couldn't use sacred magic. Sieg realized that this was an advanced spell he hadn't learned yet. He knew he could master it in the future, but right now, he needed a solution for Haku. Then he remembered something Siegbert had told him, to rely on his family. Sieg told Willie that he knew someone who could help. They explained everything to Ariane, who was shocked by how cruel the curse was. Sieg then mentioned that Ariane had recently learned holy magic and asked if she could use it to heal Haku. Ariane said she still didn't have enough magic power to use holy purification. She felt sorry because she couldn't heal Haku. Willie tried to comfort her, telling her that very few people could use holy magic at her age. She then showed them a holy purification stone. She explained that when her mother was still alive, she had ordered it from the Magic City state of Lin. Back then, Ariane could only use light magic. Wanting to help her mother, she worked hard to master holy magic. But no matter how much she tried, her power wasn't strong enough. By the time she finally got the stone, it was already too late. Now she wanted to use the stone to help Haku. But Haku looked sad and refused. This stone was precious to Ariane, and Haku didn't want her to use it on her. Ariane misunderstood and thought Haku was rejecting her because she didn't like her. Sieg explained that Haku refused because the stone was important to Ariane. Haku didn't want it to disappear, but Ariane insisted. She had wanted to apologize to Haku for a long time. She felt bad for doubting her and also wanted to thank her for saving Sieg. As Ariane held up the stone, it started glowing. Haku suddenly felt warm and cozy. Willie noticed that the magic flow had returned to normal. Sieg thanked his sister for her help. Willie then asked Haku to copy him and use ice magic. When Haku tried, she successfully created ice leaves. She was overjoyed that she could finally use magic. Snow covered the ground, and Sieg excitedly said he could build a snowman. Everyone started playing in the snow, so Willie decided to delay their training session. Just then, a fairy-like girl appeared nearby. She cheerfully said she wanted to play with Sieg too. Sieg and Haku trained their magic together while Willie watched over them. He praised them for improving their control and teamwork. Both of them felt happy, especially since Willie highly praised Haku. Afterward, Willie told them to keep practicing for the rest of the day because he had to meet Siegbert. Sieg thanked him for his guidance, and Willie gave a faint smile as he looked at his nephew. In Siegbert office, Willie mentioned that he had been teaching Sieg and the others earlier. Siegbert asked how Sieg was doing, and Willie expressed his amazement. Even though Sieg's house arrest had been lifted, Willie continued teaching him magic and was impressed by his knowledge and ambition. He was especially fascinated by Sieg's magical imagery and wondered where his ideas came from. He even joked about wanting to take a peek inside Sieg's mind. However, Siegbert told him to stop, reminding him that his son was not a research subject. Willie explained that he wanted Sieg to focus on mana control for now, so he could interact freely with the outside world. Siegbert was pleased to hear that. Willie also shared something surprising. Haku was a rare black cat variant with both lightning and ice attributes. Siegbert found it hard to believe, but Willie confirmed it. However, he also pointed out that Haku had magic color, leading him to suspect she had been poached. He had heard rumors about the imperial family secretly hunting and capturing holy beasts for illegal auctions. Willie also discovered tracking magic on Haku. He removed it and left it deep inside the Forest of Silence. Amused, he wondered how the poachers were handling the situation now. When Gilbert asked if he had placed it in the innermost part of the forest, Willie smiled wickedly and playfully wondered how things would turn out. Gilbert called him as merciless as ever. Willie said that Haku shouldn't be targeted anymore, but he still advised staying alert. He also suggested quickly giving her an amulet with their family crest. He was excited to design the item and fill it with defensive magic. Gilbert noticed that Willie had taken a liking to her. Willie described Haku as pure, honest, and as friendly as a loving family member. Gilbert pointed out how soft Willie was when it came to family, and Willie replied that Gilbert should feel the same since they were in this situation together. Gilbert didn't know how to respond, so he dropped a bunch of love letters and marriage proposals meant for Willie. He complained about how hard it was to reach the famous Red Noble, and the letters always ended up being sent to his brother instead. Gilbert didn't mind if Willie planned to stay single forever, but he asked him not to ignore the letters, or they would be sent to the Magic Tower instead. Willie quickly told him not to do that, and decided to ask a certain friend for help. Meanwhile, Sieg was training his mana control but kept failing. Every time he tried to pour his mana into something, it turned out murky. He wanted to create glass stones so he could use advanced magic more easily. In a flashback, he once asked his sister if the Holy Cleansing Stone was useless after being used. Ariane explained that it simply turned back into a regular glass stone. She told him that magic stones were basically glass stones made from magic sand and infused with magic. The stone she had just used was called the Holy Cleansing Stone because it contained holy cleansing magic. Sieg wondered if the used stone could still be useful. Ariane confirmed that it could, as long as he could fill it with a spell that was too difficult to cast on his own. She also said the stones wouldn't break, even if advanced magic was poured into them. After that, Sieg tried to create glass stones to store advanced magic and use them in dangerous situations. He focused on controlling his mana while using the sand on the table to make a glass stone. He almost succeeded, but the stone turned out strange and fell to the floor. Frustrated by his failure, he questioned what went wrong. Helper appeared and explained that the problem was with the quality of the magic sand. Sieg had assumed it was high quality since Willie gave it to him. Helper agreed that the sand was grade A and of excellent quality, but after analyzing it, he found that Sieg could only use S+ grade sand. Anything of lower quality couldn't handle Sieg's magical power. Sieg then wondered where they could find S+ grade magic sand. Helper explained that the deepest part of the Silent Forest had some, but he suggested going to the Fairy Forest instead. Since Earth spirits had blessed the land, the sand there should be of the highest quality. Plus, they could enjoy some sightseeing. Sieg didn't know where the Fairy Forest was, so Helper eagerly offered to guide him, acting like a tourist guide. He described the Fairy Forest as a safe, secure, and comfortable place to visit. For some reason, Sieg felt uneasy about the sudden tour recommendation. Suddenly, a strong wind blew out of nowhere. A fairy appeared and excitedly greeted Sieg. She was happy to finally meet him and gave him a big hug. She explained that she had been holding back this whole time and flew straight to him as soon as she got permission. Haku immediately tried to protect Sieg, but the fairy acted like she already knew Haku. The white tiger was shocked when the fairy used sound transmission. She knew that Haku didn't want anyone to find out she was a sacred beast. The fairy promised to keep it a secret, not even telling Willie because she thought it was fun to hide it from him. Willie asked the fairy to stop bothering Sieg. With a snap of his fingers, he used levitation magic to separate the three of them. Willie apologized to Sieg for his friend's behavior and introduced her as Frau the fairy. He explained that Frau had made a contract with him as his companion. He also shared that there had been conflicts between humans and fairies, but he assured Sieg that there was no need to be afraid of her. Frau said she was only interested in certain people. Willie was surprised that Sieg could see fairies too and asked him to keep Frau a secret. Frau was even more surprised to learn that this was Sieg's first time seeing fairies. She smiled like she had won something and decided to protect him since Willie also cared about him. She found Sieg amusing because his inner thoughts and outward actions didn't match. She then asked if he was an adult or a child. Willie reminded her that he only allowed her to meet Sieg, not to bother him. Frau called him stingy. Sieg asked if something had happened, but Willie said it was just a personal matter. While walking through the town, Frau said she didn't fully understand the situation, but she was happy to have permission to go outside. Willie hoped this would stop the young women who kept chasing after him. Sieg had a feeling he understood what Willie meant, but Willie told him it was too soon for a child to know. Frau then said she would give Sieg something as a sign of their friendship. She knew he needed magic sand from the fairy forest. Sieg excitedly asked if she had it, but Frau said she had left it at the magic core. Willie agreed that regular magic sand wouldn't be strong enough to handle Sieg's magic power. Frau figured it would be fine to get some from the fairy forest if it was for Sieg's training. She assumed he wanted to make pretty glass stones, but Sieg corrected her, saying he wanted to make high-quality ones like his sister's. Willie checked Sieg's failed glass stones and admitted that Sieg's mana control was getting better. However, he found it difficult to provide exactly what his nephew wanted. Sieg asked if he was busy. Willie explained that he was working on a new type of teleportation stone and couldn't leave the magic core for a month. That meant he wouldn't be able to teach Sieg magic for a while. He apologized to both Sieg and Haku. Sieg then considered the magic core. Since it was a place to study magic, he wondered how much magic he still didn't know. Frau wanted to deliver it to Sieg, but Willie refused. He explained that if she moved objects in her current form, normal people would see them floating, which would be suspicious. He also warned her not to be alone, even in her human form, because if people found out she was a fairy, she could be in danger. Frau pouted, saying she only wanted to do it because she thought Sieg would like it. Instead, Sieg came up with an idea. He would visit the magic core himself. He admitted he was being stubborn but said he just wanted to learn magic. He was curious about the magic core and wanted to see it for himself. Frau found the idea exciting. Willie said that if Sieg were just an ordinary kid, he would have been worried, but since it was Sieg, he agreed to let him go. Sieg felt happy and thanked his uncle. He had already read all the books in the mansion and looked forward to this new experience. Haku also wanted to go, but Willie said it might not be possible. Since Haku was extremely rare, researchers would likely become interested in her. Even Willie admitted he might not be able to resist studying her. Hearing that, Haku trembled in fear and decided to stay home. Sieg admired her decision. Willie then promised to get permission from his brother and make the necessary preparations for Sieg's visit to the magic core. The next day, Theo and Ariane stood by the gates to see Sieg off. Ariane felt worried about Sieg traveling alone. Sieg reassured him that a carriage would pick him up and that he would return safely this time. Ariane and Haku promised to wait for him. Theo wished him a good experience. When the servant said everything was ready, Sieg turned to the carriage, waved goodbye to his siblings, and set off on his journey. On the way to the capital, Sieg couldn't help but feel excited. The butler remembered that it was Sieg's first time visiting. He mentioned that Sieg was usually sent to fight monsters with Theo, but didn't share much more since it was a secret. He also explained that besides Willie, the captain of the 3rd Magic Corps, there were other skilled individuals who were experts in combat, knowledge, and magical research. As they got closer to the capital, the conversation shifted. Looking out the carriage window, Sieg saw the grand capital ahead. The butler pointed out that the entrance to the Magic Corps was on the west side, but the research facilities were hidden elsewhere. In fact, he admitted he had no idea where those crazy researchers worked. Sieg reminded him that his uncle was also one of those researchers. The butler trusted Sieg to keep things confidential. When they arrived at the entrance, a girl informed them that only Sieg was allowed inside. It was a rule. No attendants were permitted. The maid worried that Sieg was too young, but the girl firmly repeated that it was protocol. The butler reassured her, saying there was nothing to worry about since it was Sieg. Still, the maid remained concerned, but Sieg told them to relax and enjoy the capital while he was inside. Even so, he felt a little uneasy about his guide. The girl assured them that safety was guaranteed. Sieg had imagined the Magic Corps would be a magnificent place, but once he stepped inside, it looked more like a haunted house. The guide casually warned him to watch his step and walked ahead. Worried, Sieg asked her not to leave him behind. Since he had already decided to go alone, he quickly followed. Soon they reached an eerie-looking large door. Sieg wondered what kind of research facility might be hidden behind it. The guide activated a magic crystal, and as the door opened, a bright light blinded Sieg. What he saw next was nothing like the dark and creepy hallway. The inside was bright, lively, and much bigger than he expected. A massive tree was growing within the building, and a strange liquid flowed down like a small waterfall. It didn't look like water at all. Curious, Sieg asked if the liquid was tree sap. The guide was surprised he noticed. Sieg explained that he had read about paint and chemicals on magical devices being made from special tree sap. He wondered if this tree was unique as well. The guide was momentarily speechless, and Sieg apologized for getting carried away. The guide introduced the tree as Amrita and explained its significance like she was ChatGPT. Sieg was overwhelmed by all the information. The guide continued, saying that the researchers used the waste from their experiments to fertilize and maintain the tree. Sieg realized that the researchers and the Amrita tree were supporting each other. The guide nodded, agreeing that it was a good way to describe it. At the entrance of the research facility, Sieg looked around with excitement. The guide told him that the captain was just behind the door and then walked away. Sieg was surprised because he still had more questions. A girl nearby told him he could take his time exploring if he was that interested. Sieg had expected them to be unfriendly, but he started wondering if these researchers only cared about their work. Sieg opened a door and saw a huge magic stone in the middle of the room. Willie greeted him. and Sieg excitedly asked where Frau was. Willie quickly covered his mouth and reminded him that Frau had settled in a different area since some researchers could see spirits. For now, he said that Frau sent her regards, and that they would meet again soon. Sieg's attention then shifted to the large magic stone. Willie explained that it was a new type of teleportation stone. Unlike regular ones that could only send people to a fixed location, this one allowed multiple destinations to be registered. It could move a person to different points instead of just one. The spell configuration was finished, but they were still testing it to make sure there were no problems with teleportation. Sieg found it difficult to understand but still called it amazing magic. Willie agreed, saying it would change how people traveled and could even replace carriages completely. Then he offered to give Sieg a tour. Just as they excitedly planned the tour, the teleportation stone started acting strangely. The entire facility shook like an earthquake. The researchers panicked, unsure why the stone had gone out of control. Its glow became brighter as they rushed to shut it down, but they were too late. Willie tried to reach for Sieg, but before anything else could happen, everything was swallowed by a blinding light. Sieg lost consciousness and tried to understand what had happened. When he opened his eyes, he found himself inside what looked like ancient ruins. Confused, he wondered where he was. Luckily, Willie had been teleported with him. Willie checked on Sieg, asking if he was feeling alright after the forced transfer. Sieg assured him he was fine and asked where they were. Willie looked around and confirmed that they had been transported inside a dungeon. He explained that it was a lower-level dungeon, something he had already checked. He couldn't understand why they had ended up there. He suspected there was a problem with the magic that transported them, but such an issue shouldn't have happened unless someone had purposely changed the magic's structure. Sieg asked if something was wrong. Willie admitted he was just thinking and felt embarrassed that he didn't know the exact reason for the transfer. He also confirmed that the dungeon wasn't registered in the teleportation stone, meaning their destination had been completely off. He wanted to figure out the cause right away, but knew they had to find a way out first. Sieg asked if they could just teleport outside. Willie explained that he had an emergency teleportation stone, but dungeons had restrictions. Inside these spaces, teleportation magic wouldn't work, and even if they used the stone, they wouldn't be able to contact the magic core. Dungeons were mysterious structures scattered across the world, each with a different environment. Many countries were studying them to determine if they were powerful illusions or something else entirely. One thing was certain: any magic meant to escape was sealed inside, and anyone who died in a dungeon would be absorbed by it. Deep within these dungeons, rare treasures and artifacts called ooparts, believed to be from another world, could be found. Willie called dungeons dangerous but admitted they could reveal many secrets about the world. Sieg became excited when he heard about the ooparts. However, Willie noticed signs that the dungeon had already been explored and assumed the treasures had been taken. Sieg then wondered if his bad luck had caused them to be teleported there. Willie explained that they had two options to escape: follow the path leading upward, or defeat the dungeon's boss monster at the deepest level. He then had an idea. He suggested Sieg fight the boss monster alone. He told Sieg it was the perfect chance to test his training and learn through real combat. Sieg hesitated, unsure if he could defeat the monster. Willie revealed that the dungeon's boss was called the Red Sword King, a B-ranked monster. It was the same level as the one Sieg and his brother had fought in the forest. Sieg immediately thought it was reckless, but Willie believed Sieg had the ability to win. When Willie smiled in a mischievous way, Sieg felt uneasy. Willie insisted that defeating the boss monster was the fastest way out since they were already deep inside the dungeon. Suddenly, a girl's scream echoed from a nearby tunnel. Sieg became worried while Willie was doubtful about the voice. Before Willie could stop him, Sieg ran toward the sound. Inside a room, he found a girl with animal ears trapped in thick cobwebs. Willie arrived and found the scene unsettling. Alongside the girl, there were two large spider monsters. Willie turned to Sieg and asked if he was ready to prove the results of his training. Sieg used his appraisal eyes and discovered that the spider monsters had advanced earth magic. Without warning, the spiders shot out thick, sticky threads. Willie quickly grabbed Sieg and dodged the attack. He told Sieg to aim for the spider's eyes and joints because those were their weak spots. He reminded Sieg to attack like he did in training, but with more force this time. Sieg already knew which element to use against the earth-attributed spiders. He used Wind/Hurricane to cut off the monster's limbs. Willie praised him, but Sieg suddenly warned that another spider was coming. Without even looking, Willie casually blocked the attack. With a quick flick of his wrist, he easily chopped the spider into pieces. He felt a little bad for killing Sieg's practice target. Sieg, however, was truly impressed by his uncle, who seemed to have no blind spots or weaknesses. Willie then reminded Sieg that they needed to rescue the others. He cut down the spider threads, and Sieg used wind magic to support the falling thread cases and the girl inside. He helped the girl and asked if she was okay. As the girl opened her eyes, something suddenly rushed past Sieg. A bald man in heavy armor appeared, holding the girl in his arms. Sieg couldn't believe he had let his guard down. The rescued people called the girl Her Grace, and she in turn called the other girl Dia. They were relieved to see each other safe. The girl was happy that Dia was unharmed but pointed out that her ears were showing. The bald man guessed that her magic tool had broken. It seemed to be a secret between the three of them. Sieg wondered if having visible ears was a bad thing. To help, he offered his cape to cover Dia's head. The bald man then asked who Sieg was. Sieg hesitated, but Willie stepped forward and introduced them as simple travelers. However, the bald man noticed the Magesta Magic Corps badge on Willie. Dia confirmed that Sieg and Willie had helped her, and the bald man expressed his gratitude. Willie downplayed his role, saying that Sieg had done most of the work. The bald man then thanked Sieg for his bravery. Willie also mentioned that they had rescued 2 more people. The bald man asked about the others, but Willie said it was best if they didn't see. The other thread cases contained only clothes and armor. He explained that dungeons absorbed bodies a few hours after death. The spiders' cocoons drained their victims' energy until they died. Looking sorrowful, the bald man said he should at least bring back their belongings to their homeland. Dia called those who had died patriotic knights who never hesitated to give their lives for their country. Sieg felt guilty for not realizing it sooner, but Leah assured him it wasn't his fault since they had been prepared for it. Even so, Sieg could see that she was shaken, so he offered her some cookies. He told her they were delicious and even joked that they weren't poisoned. Dia looked sad, but when she took a bite, her expression brightened. She found the cookie tasty, which made Sieg happy. He encouraged them to have more. However, the other girl hesitated, saying she wasn't as important as Dia. Just then, a bald man apologized for making Dia wait and informed her that he had finished gathering the knights and their belongings. He also mentioned that a member of the Magic Corps had set up a tent for them to rest. He added that the surviving knights had something to share. Sieg was surprised to learn that his uncle had something useful with him all along. Dia thanked the bald man for his efforts. She also thanked Sieg for the cookies and apologized for the late introduction. She then introduced herself as Diana von Estonia, the 3rd princess of Estonia. Sieg was shocked to realize she had been a princess all along. Meanwhile, Willie noticed traces of magic in the damaged barrier. He assumed this was why he had sensed a battle nearby. He also felt that there was something odd about the clue he had just discovered. Later, inside the tent, the Estanian knights, Camille and Daniela, said they were already feeling better. Dia also introduced her maid Emma. The bald man was Pascal von Balsmude, a count in Estonia. Dia said Pascal was the person she trusted the most. Willie mentioned that he had heard of the famous knight Count Balsmude. At the same time, Pascal had also heard of the well-known red magician from the Magic Corps. He figured it out from Willie's red hair and the fact that he was from the Magic Corps. After seeing the Abel family crest, he became even more certain. Diana was surprised that both of them were from the Abel family. Willie then formally introduced himself as the vice commander of the 3rd Magic Corps, and introduced Sieg as his nephew, another member of the Abel family. With introductions out of the way, Willie asked why the princess and her group had ended up in the lower levels of the dungeon. Dia explained that they had used a teleportation stone for a diplomatic mission, but instead they were suddenly transported into the dungeon and trapped in cocoons. Sieg realized it was the same thing that had happened to them. Pascal said that if the princess remained missing for too long, it could become a national crisis. However, they didn't have the right equipment or enough people to escape the dungeon. Knowing that Willie came from a powerful and well-known family, Pascal asked for his help. Sieg agreed, saying they had the same goal, and asked his uncle to assist them. Willie had expected his nephew to say that, but he had one condition. He pulled out a strange-looking contract and told them they must promise not to reveal anything they saw in the dungeon related to Sieg. He wanted them to swear by it using a magical contract. Camille was shocked to see a contract demon book in person. He exclaimed that it was extremely powerful because it was the highest-ranking binding magic tome, and it had no limit to how it punished those who broke its terms. It would even kill the violator. Camille couldn't believe Willie was demanding something so extreme. He also couldn't believe Willie would risk using such a dangerous contract on a princess. Willie admitted that it was a harsh request, but since they would be traveling together, the condition could not be changed. No matter who they were, even if they were royalty, he couldn't allow anyone to learn anything about his nephew. Diana understood and agreed to Willie's terms. Pascal tried to stop her, but she was determined to prevent more people from getting hurt. She declared that she was their princess and was willing to risk her life for them. Willie called her strong, but Sieg asked him not to take things too far. However, Diana didn't mind. To her, the fact that the Abel family was willing to protect them already meant a lot. She also guessed that Sieg was the gemstone of the current generation. Willie responded with a sharp look. Sieg, confused, asked why he was called the gemstone. Willie had no choice but to explain. He told Sieg that this was finally his chance to learn that he was more special than he thought. Willie admitted that Sieg held a unique position in the Abel family. Sieg already knew that Willie's ability to assess others was far beyond normal, so he had no choice but to believe him. Diana then asked for the contract book, but Sieg told them to wait. He felt it was unfair that only their conditions were being forced onto him. He asked if Diana had any secrets of her own and suggested making a contract with her as well. Willie warned that it wasn't necessary, but Sieg was willing to take the risk. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to fully join them. Diana was surprised. After thinking for a moment, she removed Sieg's cape from her head. She revealed her ears and tail, shocking even her own knights. Willie assumed this was the appearance of Senzoge, returning to the ways of her ancestors. Diana confirmed that her clan carried non-human blood, and once in a long while a human was born with those traits. However, such people were rarely seen because of discrimination. She explained that she usually hid her true appearance using a magic tool, but it had broken during the recent attack. She didn't want people to know about her ability to return to her ancestors because it could weaken the royal family's authority. Her condition was simple. No one was allowed to reveal her secret unless she did so herself. Sieg agreed to the terms. Willie warned him not to reveal anything under any circumstances. Sieg promised he wouldn't let Diana or her family be sad. Willie sighed, knowing his nephew was his greatest weakness. In the end, he decided to change the punishment in the contract from death to memory loss. Diana thanked Sieg for stepping in. Willie then finalized the contract. The black paper floated in the air and split into several pieces matching the number of people present. Each piece entered the person it was assigned to. Sieg asked if that completed the contract. Willie reminded everyone to keep everything a secret. Camille swore to do so for the princess's sake, while Daniela remained silent, looking worried. Pascal then asked if Willie would now cooperate with them. Willie confirmed and promised to help them cross the dungeon safely. As the adults shook hands, Sieg told Diana he hoped they would make it out alive together. Diana agreed and shook his hand. Watching them, Willie thought he was doing this for Sieg's sake, but he had also added a few hidden conditions in the contract. Noticing the broken barrier magic stone, he realized that someone had set it up before they arrived in the dungeon. The purpose was clear: to prevent interference until Diana's entire group was wiped out. Trusting his instincts, he felt certain of this. Now, he only needed to figure out who among them was the traitor. As Sieg slept soundly, Willie spoke to someone and assured them that he would take care of things on his end. He also asked them to contact Gilbert to make sure everything related to Sieg was handled smoothly. The situation in Estonia was left in the hands of the person he was speaking with. Willie also reported the strange traces found in the broken magic stone. He suspected there was a traitor among them, possibly connected to the attack on Sieg. Sieg eventually woke up, and Willie greeted him. Sieg asked if he had been talking to someone, but Willie denied it, saying he had been busy watching over his cute nephew as he slept. Sieg then remembered that they had let the princess's group rest in the tent while he stubbornly insisted on staying outside to keep watch with his uncle. He wondered when he had fallen asleep. Willie told him it was still early for someone his age. Sieg explained that he just wanted to do something exciting. Willie reminded him that he had already been on plenty of adventures thanks to Theo. Sieg responded that he only wanted to become stronger. He admitted that he hoped to be an adventurer in the future because he enjoyed hunting monsters with the others. Willie was happy to see this playful side of Sieg. Just then, Emma arrived and told them that breakfast was ready. Willie assumed that Pascal and the others had returned. Sieg, however, was a little disappointed. He had wanted to go out and gather ingredients himself. Inside the tent, a delicious meal was served. Dia's ears perked up when Emma prepared berry sandwiches. She was so happy that her tails wagged rapidly. Sieg assumed that Dia liked berry sandwiches. Pascal was pleased that the dungeon was full of edible monsters, and Willie agreed. Pascal mentioned that he could manage the cooking since Willie had already provided the tent and kept watch. Emma also thanked Willie for the kitchen and emergency food supplies. Sieg gave his berry sandwiches to Dia. Surprised, Dia asked how Sieg knew she liked them. Sieg simply pointed at her excited tail. Embarrassed, Dia asked if he found it annoying, but Sieg said it suited her. Camille, however, got upset, thinking Sieg was insulting the princess. Sieg then called Dia cute, which made Camille even angrier. Suddenly, a knife flew across the table and stabbed into the wood right in front of Camille. Willie reminded him who was responsible for keeping them alive. Camille quickly apologized. Dia then smiled and said she was happy that Camille still treated her the same, even in her current form. Daniela then asked what their next step was. She also mentioned that defeating the boss monster was the fastest way to escape the dungeon. Willie used his search magic and shared that they were currently on floor 23, with the boss monster waiting on floor 25. He then created a hologram to display the dungeon floors and the expected monsters, including the boss, the Red Sword King. Camille was shocked that Willie could detect the enemies ahead. Willie explained that he couldn't determine the terrain, only the monsters based on his observations. Pascal said that was more than enough, as knowing the creatures in a wide area was already impressive. As always, Willie seemed amazing in Sieg's eyes. However, Sieg was stuck at level 7 and couldn't level up further. He wished to learn more magic useful for adventuring. After finishing their meal, Pascal announced that it was time to prepare and asked for Dia's approval. Dia agreed and hoped the Abels could assist her as much as possible. Camille then glared at Willy, mumbling about how geniuses seem to be everywhere. Daniela overheard his grumbling. For some reason, the two knights held a secret meeting. Daniela revealed that she had seen Willy secretly contacting someone while holding the remains of a magic stone. She suspected that the monsters had surrounded them because of that stone. She even suggested that Willy might have lured them into the dungeon to have them killed. Camille panicked and wanted to inform the princess immediately, but Daniela warned him to stay calm. She explained that acting recklessly could get him killed by Willy in an instant. Camille wished his brother was there, believing he would have been able to come up with a quick plan. Daniela then recalled hearing that Camille's brother was a highly skilled knight. Camille admitted that his brother always met people's expectations, making him the center of attention. Everyone admired his brother, and Camille couldn't really blame them. Even though he had been appointed as the princess's knight, he still wasn't recognized by others. He wondered if he would ever be as good as his brother. Daniela then revealed that she was the one who had chosen him to be the princess's knight. She believed he was the best fit for the role and acknowledged his strength in protecting the princess. Camille was shocked to learn that Daniela thought so highly of him. She then suggested that this was his chance to prove himself by taking down the Red Magician. Camille agreed and swore to protect the princess at all costs. On the 24th floor, Sieg used his refined wind magic to take down monsters with ease. Pascal was amazed that such a small child could handle so much on his own. Willy explained that this was actually part of Sieg's training. Pascal now understood why Willy had changed the contract's punishment. Sieg was truly a rare talent. He agreed that Sieg was a gemstone of this generation, someone truly special. Excited, Sieg showed off the meat that had dropped from the defeated monsters. Willy then explained that corpses inside the dungeon vanish as the dungeon absorbs them for energy. When a creature dies, it turns into chunks, which are gradually absorbed. However, if they collect the remaining parts before the dungeon takes them, they can keep them as loot. Strangely, some defeated monsters turned into processed food instead of raw materials. Willy guessed that dungeons were originally created as a kind of ranch by an unknown civilization, though Camille completely disagreed with the idea. Sieg then glanced to the side and noticed Dia's ears drooping. Sensing her unease, he assured her that everything would be fine. Dia tried to deny feeling worried, but then realized her ears and tail had already given her emotions away. Embarrassed, she asked if Sieg wasn't afraid at all. Sieg admitted that he was scared too, but at the same time he wanted to grow stronger. He wanted to protect the people he loved and avoid getting hurt because of his own weaknesses. That was why he fought. Dia smiled and called him a fine man. Sieg, however, laughed and said he was just trying to sound cool. He had always loved the idea of adventuring in the outside world. His fear of monsters was slowly being replaced by his excitement for the unknown. He then shared that he had spent most of his life locked inside the mansion. Hearing this, Dia felt sad. She could relate. She had spent most of her time in the royal palace. While she was grateful to be protected, she couldn't help but feel jealous whenever she saw children running around freely outside. Sieg could see how sad the princess was. Wanting to cheer her up, he suggested they run around for the day and enjoy the beauty of the place without the monsters. He pointed out the mysterious landscape and asked if she wanted to check out the unknown fruits and the nearby spring. Dia immediately said she did. Sieg then reached out his hand, inviting her to explore with him, and promised to protect her no matter what. Camille tried to stop them, but Willy assured him there were no more monsters nearby. Pascal agreed not to interfere with the kids, but asked Emma to stay close to them. He had never seen the princess this happy before and hoped Sieg would be a good friend to her. Willy agreed, believing the two would get along well. Sieg and Dia went on their little adventure, examining the strange fruits and visiting the spring. There they spotted a small monster that looked confused, but Pascal quickly took it down before Sieg could even draw his sword. After that, they enjoyed a relaxing lunch together. Later they discovered a treasure chest, but it turned out to be a tricky trap. Camille, who had been keeping a close watch on Sieg for leading the princess around, finally eased up a little. Before long, the group reached the lowest level of the dungeon. A large door stood before them, leading to the dungeon boss. Camille immediately suggested taking down the monster and heading home, but Willy told him to relax. Everyone was tired, and facing a B-ranked monster in that state would be dangerous. He recommended resting first and dealing with the dungeon boss the next day, especially since he wanted his dear nephew to recover. Sieg, however, suspected that his uncle wanted him to face the dungeon boss alone. Willy then reminded everyone that it was their last night in the dungeon, but warned them to stay alert and keep their spirits up. For some reason, hearing those words made Dia feel a little sad. That night, Dia asked Sieg if he had some time to spare. She wanted to talk to him alone and had already gotten permission from Emma and Pascal as long as she stayed near Sieg. Sieg didn't mind, but he hesitantly glanced at his uncle. Willy didn't like the idea of leaving them alone in a dungeon. However, when Dia pleaded with him, saying this might be the last time she would ever see Sieg, he finally relented. To ensure their safety, he cast ice cage and monitoring magic on them. While he wouldn't be able to see or hear their conversation, he would know immediately if anything happened. Sieg then suggested going to a spot he had noticed earlier, and Dia eagerly asked him to lead the way. As he watched the children walk off, Willy recalled how Sieg had managed to protect himself from surprise attacks before. He felt confident in his nephew's abilities. For now, he focused on Emma and Pascal, who were cleaning the cooking utensils, while the knights patrolled the area. He knew this was the perfect moment for the traitor to make their move, and he had to catch them at all costs. Meanwhile, Daniela quietly pulled out several magical tools. Camille, noticing her actions, asked what they were. Daniela explained that they were necessary for protecting the princess. Among them was a magic stone that could help conceal their actions. She claimed it would allow them to trap the Red Magician. She then handed Camille the magic tool and the stone, instructing him to follow her lead. She insisted that this was all to protect the princess. They had only one chance, and she was certain they could eliminate the Red Magician, the one they believed to be the true culprit. The kids arrived in a place where the night sky had 2 moons. The ground looked like an old battlefield, with swords still stuck in the earth. Dia found the scene beautiful and Sieg was happy that she liked it. Not wanting to stand while talking, Sieg created something from the ground. When Dia asked what it was, Sieg simply said it was something comfortable, like a sofa. They both lay down on the beanbags and sank into them. Dia felt so relaxed that she forgot why she had come to talk to him in the first place. After a moment, she expressed her admiration for Sieg, even though they were the same age. She thanked him for all the help he had given her. Sieg, however, said he was still learning since there were many things he couldn't do yet. He remembered his uncle calling him a special existence in the Abel family. Then, Sieg thought of something else and asked if Dia had heard about the gemstone. Dia admitted she didn't know much. She only knew that the Abel family was one of the supporters of the Mangesta kingdom's founding. As a reward, they were given the title of Marquis. Since the king's second son had married into the Abel family, they also became known as the Second Royal Family. Sieg recalled hearing similar things from his uncle before. Dia guessed that the gemstone was something the Abel family had protected for generations. She believed it was their family treasure. She explained that gemstone was a title given to the heirs of certain families. With a powerful house like the Abels, they would never forgive anyone who dared to harm their treasure. Many people wondered what kind of power the Abels' treasure had that made them guard it so closely, but no one truly knew. Sieg wondered if he was really that valuable. Was he truly the Abel family's treasure? Dia said that was all she knew and assumed someone would explain it to Sieg in the future. Sieg apologized for asking something difficult, but Dia didn't mind. She understood that keeping secrets meant carrying great responsibility. She was the same way. Sieg agreed, realizing they were more alike than he had thought. Hearing that, Dia asked Sieg to call her by her name without any formal titles. Sieg tried but still used honorifics. Dia, frustrated, shouted at him to be more casual. Sieg was startled, and Dia quickly apologized for getting too excited. Then, Sieg asked what she had originally wanted to talk about. Dia admitted that she just wanted to be friends with him. Even though Sieg knew she was a rare case of someone resembling her ancestors, he still treated her like a normal person. Because of him, she had come to see adventuring as something fun and exciting. The time she spent with him had been truly enjoyable. When she returned to Estonia, she would have to go back to being a princess and wouldn't be able to experience this kind of fun again. But for now, she wanted to enjoy their time together as friends. She wanted to spend the rest of their adventure in the dungeon just as 2 equals, not as a princess and a noble. Sieg understood how serious she was and casually called her name. He admitted that he also wanted to be friends, not because she was a princess, but because they were the same age. He had fun being around her, especially watching her tail move. He didn't want to stop talking to her, so he promised to find a way to send letters and see her again. He truly wanted to meet her once more. Rising at 5 years old, confirmed. Diana felt happy and hoped they would meet again. Her beauty under the night sky left Sieg speechless. He didn't know what to say, but he was sure Diana would grow into a beautiful woman someday. Meanwhile, Willy looked around and found the locations of the kids, Pascal and Emma. However, he couldn't sense the knights. He assumed they were the traitors and had already moved. What shocked him more was that they had a powerful magic tool that blocked his magic. Suddenly, a magic stone shattered nearby and Willy realized it was a presence blocker. He quickly checked his monitoring magic and spotted Sieg nearby. Then he saw someone running and decided to chase after them. It was Camille, carrying Sieg. Willy wondered why they had taken Sieg instead of the princess. His face darkened as he swore not to forgive them for harming Sieg. He rushed toward Camille but only found Sieg lying on the ground. When he checked, he realized it wasn't really Sieg. It was a doll disguised as him. At that moment, Willy understood that the knight's real target was him. Before he could react, the doll exploded. Camille took cover and then checked to see if Willie was buried under the rubble. When he saw what had happened, he celebrated, thinking he had defeated the Red Magician. However, he was suddenly betrayed. Daniela stabbed him in the back, saying he was no longer useful to her. She couldn't believe he never found her suspicious. She was glad that someone as foolish as Camille had survived among the knights because the others would have been harder to manipulate. Camille weakly asked if she had been lying all along. Daniela confirmed it without hesitation. She admitted that everything she had told him was a lie. She never recommended him, never planned to protect the princess, and the plan to kill everyone had been hers from the start. She also called the magic tool she received useful, seeing someone like Camille had been able to defeat the powerful Red Magician. Now, only children and an old warrior remained, and no one could stop her anymore. Camille tried to stop her, but Daniela pushed his hands away in disgust. She mocked him, calling him poor and brainless, saying his only purpose was to die in the dungeon so the dungeon itself could take care of everything. She declared that the princess and her group would disappear soon. She also mentioned that Camille's brother was still out there, and that no one would mourn his death. With that, she walked away, leaving Camille to lose consciousness as he slowly died. A short while ago, Sieg and Dia heard a loud explosion. Sieg assumed something had happened and quickly ran back to the camp. When they arrived, they saw that the final door was wide open. Pascal and Emma asked if they were okay. Dia wanted to know what was going on, but Pascal didn't have an answer. They had only heard the sounds of battle outside the tent. Emma explained that the tent had been sealed with magic earlier, but Pascal broke the seal to escape. At that moment, Willie's ice cage shattered, shocking Sieg. He immediately worried about his uncle. Then Daniela appeared, injured, and explained that they had been attacked earlier. She believed the attacker was the one who had lured them into the dungeon. According to her, the culprit had escaped into the boss's room, and Willie and Camille had gone after them. She suggested that they follow, and Pascal agreed. Daniela also asked Dia to come along, saying they couldn't rule out any suspects yet. Sieg reassured Dia, promising to protect her. The group entered the final room, where the dungeon boss sat calmly on its throne. Seeing it alone, Sieg and Pascal asked where the others were. Suddenly, Daniela started laughing and took off her hair tie. The door slammed shut and dark vines spread across it, locking them inside. Her appearance changed, and she declared that they would all die because of their foolishness. Pascal quickly realized that Daniela had been the culprit all along. She smirked and told them it was too late to figure that out. She revealed that Camille and Willie were already dead. Sieg refused to believe her, but she didn't care. The fact remained that neither of them had returned. Daniela then threw a sharp object at the dungeon boss. Strangely, the boss began trembling. She explained that a simple fight would have been too boring, so she made things more interesting by making the boss even stronger. Now, under her control, the dungeon boss stood ready to fight. With a cruel smile, Daniela looked at Dia and told her to suffer before she died. Daniela, having powered up the boss monster, gave off a strong and intimidating presence. Pascal demanded to know what she was doing. Sieg used his appraisal eyes and realized that the boss monster was now under Daniela's control and was experiencing strange conditions. Its skills and rank were also spiraling out of control. Soon they discovered that its weakness was advanced lightning magic, the very magic that Sieg feared the most. Daniela then commanded the monster to attack. Pascal quickly stepped in and shielded everyone. At the same time, Daniela used her shadows to create spider-like creatures around Dia and Emma, telling them to stay out of the way while she dealt with the princess. Pascal urged Sieg to take Dia and escape. Sieg hesitated, not wanting to abandon them, but Pascal warned that they would all be surrounded if they stayed. Left with no choice, Sieg grabbed Dia's hand, determined to find a safe place for her. Using his appraisal eyes, he hoped to figure out how to unlock the door. However, Daniela wasn't about to let them go. She sent her shadows to attack Sieg and Dia. Pascal shouted their names in concern. Just in time, Sieg cast Wall of Light to protect them and countered with Wind Slash. The shadows disappeared, but the boss monster was still chasing them. Sieg realized that the only way to stop it was to destroy the magic stone Daniela was using, but it was protected by barriers that could only be broken with lightning magic. Yet, due to his trauma, Sieg couldn't use it. Helper explained that there was only a 20% chance of breaking the magic stone with a different type of magic. But Sieg would have to use his full power. He could weaken the barrier with basic level magic, but he couldn't afford to since he had to keep defending both himself and Dia. As he struggled to keep up, he knew he couldn't hold out much longer. Desperate, he wondered what to do next. Dia looked at him with worry and then offered to be the bait. She believed he couldn't fight the boss monster, but she could distract it with Sieg's Wall of Light. Since she was the original target, they could use this chance for Pascal and Emma to defeat the spiders first. If she couldn't hold on, she told them to run. Sieg called her reckless, but Dia insisted they had to give their best effort to prevent more casualties. She was ready to risk her life and truly meant it. She didn't want others to suffer because of her. Sieg struggled with the decision but eventually agreed. However, he also admitted he felt the same way. He resumed his attack on the boss monster with wind magic and noticed that both of its hands had already been cut off. He then declared that he wouldn't sacrifice Dia and vowed to protect her no matter what. After casting Wall of Light on her, he stepped forward. He believed he could do it because he had the power to fight. Due to an unexpected disaster, the boss monster meant for training had gone on a rampage. Worse, its only weakness was lightning magic, something Sieg couldn't use. This kind of misfortune had happened to him before. However, he realized that this setback might actually be a hidden opportunity. If he could overcome it, victory would be within reach. Sieg pushed forward, reaching the magic stone and unleashing Inferno Spear at point-blank range. He needed the strength to protect the people he cared about. If he defeated this monster, they would all have a chance to escape. At this distance, he was certain he could win. Unfortunately, at that time, the boss monster's hands suddenly grew back. Sieg realized it had let its hands be cut off on purpose. The regenerated hands grabbed Sieg and the others couldn't do anything to help. The monster then swung its arm and threw Sieg against a nearby wall. While Dia fell into despair, Daniela approached her with a cold, dangerous look in her eyes. Meanwhile, Sieg surrounded himself with a wall of light, protecting his body from harm. He struggled to stay conscious, but his legs gave out and he couldn't stand anymore. Just then, a voice echoed in his head saying they were lucky to have found a treasure. Sieg opened his eyes and saw a butterfly resting on his nose. He often saw butterflies like this, but he wondered why one would be in a dungeon. Someone then remarked on how unrefined the butterfly looked and questioned whether it was being used to transmit their voice to Sieg. Sieg assumed the voice came from the butterfly, but he was wrong. It was coming from a sword in front of him. Seeing the great sword, Sieg remembered his uncle's words about a treasure hidden in the dungeon that could change the world. He wondered if this was the legendary Uparts. The sword then spoke, saying that Sieg's body was too small to handle the power he held. Only time could fix that. It then asked if he found that frustrating. Sieg wondered if the sword knew something about him, but this wasn't the time to dwell on it. The Uparts was right in front of him. This was his chance to win and he had to take it. Sieg forced himself back to his feet and the sword seemed impressed. It could now see Sieg's potential to reach the treasure. The sword then told Sieg to grab it, offering to be his walking stick to support him on his journey. Meanwhile, Dia ran for her life as Daniela chased after her. She also noticed that Pascal was reaching his limit. While she was distracted, Daniela's attack finally shattered the wall of light. Daniela couldn't believe that a brat like Dia was getting in her way. Dia asked what she meant by that, but Daniela just called her annoying and told her to disappear. At that moment, something exploded behind them. Daniela turned around in shock and saw Sieg holding a great sword. The sword slowly changed shape, shrinking into a small rapier to match Sieg's size. Just like he had said before, it really became nothing more than a stick. Dia felt relieved to see him safe. Daniela, however, was confused. She couldn't understand why the massive sword had turned into a rapier. Frustrated, she called Sieg stubborn for staying alive and ordered the boss monster to attack him again. Sieg gathered his magic into the rapier and unleashed his wind spell, Stormwind, completely destroying the monster. Daniela was stunned by his power. Sieg, on the other hand, was surprised that he didn't feel any strain on his body despite using his full strength. It seemed like the sword was carrying the burden for him. Realizing that he had a chance to win, Sieg used wind magic to lift himself into the air. Then, he unleashed Blaze of Fire straight at the monster's core. The attack struck its mark, shattering the core, and the boss monster exploded. Sieg had done it. However, his strength had finally run out and he dropped to his knees. Dia ran to him, worried, and asked if he was okay. Sieg was exhausted, but he was just glad that he had been able to protect her. Daniela stomped her foot in frustration. She complained that things were not going well, even though she had used the magic tools. She was already fed up with these kids who were getting on her nerves. Determined, she decided she would cut them down, even if it cost her life, until they were nothing but a pile of flesh. She lunged forward, trying to stab them, but before she could, something struck her hand. She cried out in pain and fell to the ground. Shocked, she asked where the attack had come from. At that moment, the sealed door busted open and a figure emerged from the swirling dust. A furious voice echoed through the room. Willie's. He demanded to know what Daniela was doing. With each step, his presence grew heavier, his magic filling the air. He finally appeared, injured but standing strong, carrying Camille on his shoulder. Daniela was left speechless. Willie's eyes burned with anger as he asked once again what she was doing to the treasure he held dear. She couldn't believe the red mage was actually alive. He gathered some magic in his hand and hurled it at the monsters surrounding Pascal and Emma. Pascal was shocked, but before he could react, Camille crashed into him, thrown by Willie. Willie then said he had forgiven Camille even though he was a traitor because Sieg would be sad if he died. Pascal was stunned to learn that Camille had also betrayed them. Daniela tried to stay calm by reminding herself that the enemy was injured. She decided to use all her magical tools, believing she could defeat the red mage. But with just a wave of his arm, Willie easily destroyed her attacks. She was in disbelief. None of her attacks worked on him. Panicking, she turned to run, but in an instant she was trapped in ice. Willie told her he wouldn't let her escape after hurting Sieg. He couldn't believe she was trying to kill him with simple tools. He made it clear that magic tools created by his own country couldn't be used to defeat him. Daniela was shocked that Willie could tell she was using equipment made by Mangesta. Willie confirmed it, explaining that the magic stone she used came from their magic school. He found it strange that a trader from Estonia had possession of it. On top of that, she was using a tool that wasn't even available on the market. Daniela insisted that it should have been impossible for him to know, but Willie just laughed, saying he had already figured everything out. Then, with a snap of his fingers, an ice spike pierced through Daniela's leg. He revealed that he had been investigating the magic school to uncover its secrets. Rather than listening to Daniela explain, he preferred to find out for himself. Pointing more ice spikes at her, he declared that he only needed her head. Feeling trapped, Daniela reached for something at her waist. A blinding light flashed, and suddenly she was gone from the ice prison. Willie turned and saw her standing by the portal to the surface, which had appeared after the boss monster was defeated. Daniela glared at him, vowing not to forget this, and called him a monster. Willie tried to stop her, but it was too late. His ice spikes hit nothing but air. He was shocked at how she had used a teleport stone to escape. If he had stayed calm, he could have handled it properly. But his head had lost too much blood for him to think clearly. Seeing his uncle arrive and with Daniela gone, Sieg realized that everything was over. He then lost consciousness, which made Dia worry. Willie reassured her that Sieg had just used too much magic and that his life was not in danger. Dia thanked Willie for his help, but he felt disappointed in himself for not doing more. He mentioned that he was late once again. When Dia asked what he meant, he brushed it off and said it was nothing. He then suggested they join Pascal to help heal everyone's injuries, saying that both he and Sieg would recover after some treatment. For now, he decided to let Sieg get the rest he needed. Sieg was deep in his thoughts when he heard someone calling his name. He felt a warm, gentle, and nostalgic feeling. It seemed like the voice of someone he loved. When he opened his eyes, he saw his mother smiling at him while holding him in her arms. Sieg was confused. Leah smiled and said that Sieg had really grown. She remembered when he was small enough to fit in both of her hands. She was happy to see him grow up healthy and strong. She apologized for surprising him and said this was her last chance to talk to him. Sieg started to tear up and hugged Leah. He apologized for not noticing anything and for not trying to help. Leah told him it wasn't his fault and explained that her illness couldn't be cured by his powers. She said it was a curse. Sieg asked what she meant. Instead of answering directly, Leah told him she had something to give him. She had been keeping it safe for a long time. She explained that its power had been protecting her until the right person like Sieg arrived to take on the responsibility. Now it was his turn to protect it. It was their family's greatest treasure. Sieg wondered if it was the Abel's treasure. Leah admitted she hadn't wanted to give it to him because she wanted him to live freely without being tied down, but she knew it was their destiny and she had no choice but to entrust it to him. Sieg then asked his mother what exactly the Abel's treasure was. Leah said they needed to talk about their god first. She explained that their god came from the realm of gods and created the human world. This god loved the world so much that he often visited and spent time with humans. One day, a war broke out in the realm of gods to decide its ruler. Even though the creator hated conflict, he was pulled into the battle and lost his power. If his power was taken away completely, the human world could be destroyed and remade, which he feared. To stop this, the creator sacrificed his soul, the source of his power, and hid it in the human world. The fragments of his soul became the U-parts, mixed with divine objects and scattered in different places. To protect them, dungeons were formed. The creator gave the most important part of his soul to a trusted benefactor, who passed it down through generations. The ones chosen to guard this core were the Abel family, Sieg and Leah. Leah never heard anything more about the creator after that. She claimed that this story had been passed down only to the head of the Abel family. However, it seemed that others also knew the secret. No one ever found out who they were, but the Abel's most valuable treasure kept getting targeted, and there was a risk that someone might use it to harm others. Leah felt troubled and regretted passing such a heavy responsibility to Sieg. Sieg remained silent the entire time. Concerned, Leah asked him what was wrong. He then called her a kind mother, even in death. With a cheerful tone, he told her not to worry. No matter what challenges awaited him, he would find a way through them because he had the strength to do so. He reassured her that he had people who supported him, his family, who reminded him not to carry burdens alone, a friend who shared a similar past, and a determined partner who never gave up. Though he didn't know what the future held, he knew there were things in the world worth protecting. With that resolve, he chose to take on the role of the Abel family's treasure. He promised Leah that once everything was over, he would live freely, unbound by anything. Most importantly, He vowed to cherish everyone he loved. Leah felt deeply moved and hugged her son warmly. She couldn't believe how much stronger he had become. She told him not to push himself too hard or sacrifice his own happiness. She asked him to continue living with his family and the people he cared about. Sieg agreed, wanting to honor his mother's wishes. At that moment, a familiar figure appeared and told Leah that her time had run out. She thanked the guide of life and death for granting her final wish. Turning to Sieg, she said goodbye, reminding him that since she had already entrusted him with the treasure, she could no longer help him as she had before. However, she promised to always be with him, watching over him. Sieg reached out for his mother one last time, but before he could touch her, she transformed into butterflies. As she faded away, she told Sieg to remember her whenever he saw a white butterfly. She promised to always be by his side. Sieg reached out for Leah one last time, but when he opened his eyes, he was back to reality. A white butterfly hovered above him. Suddenly, Haku appeared in his view and body slammed him. Haku was relieved that Sieg had woken up. Theo and Gilbert soon arrived, asking how he was feeling. Sieg said he was fine and mentioned that he had been having a good dream. Then he asked if they were back on the surface. Gilbert confirmed that they had just arrived after Willie provided the location. He also assured Sieg that the Princess of Estonia was safe and that the knights were keeping watch. Sieg asked why. Gilbert then explained that a rebellion had broken out in the Kingdom of Estonia, and Dia was suspected of being the mastermind. Sieg was shocked to hear that the rebellion had started so suddenly. Near the dungeon, an inn owner was shocked when someone paid a huge amount of money to rent out the entire inn for 3 days. The payment was more than enough to cover 3 months of renting out all the rooms. The person who paid also promised to handle the current guests, helping them find other places to stay. Curious, the innkeeper asked what was going on. Theo simply said it was a state secret, and asked the innkeeper to keep quiet if anything happened. Meanwhile, Dia couldn't help but wonder what was happening to Estonia. To ensure no one could listen in from outside, Willie used block. Gilbert praised him and then apologized to Dia and Pascal for the delayed introductions. He formally introduced himself as a member of the Ables and the captain of the First Knights of Mangesta. He had heard about their struggles in the dungeon and was relieved to see them safe. Dia thanked him for his concern and said it was all thanks to Sieg and Willie. However, Pascal wanted to focus on the rebellion. He asked why a rebellion was happening in their country and more importantly why Dia was being accused of leading it. He insisted that such a thing was impossible. Gilbert explained that the rebellion was small and had already been suppressed. While Dia was in the dungeon, the rebel army had attacked Estonia's capital. Dia immediately worried about the citizens and asked if they were safe. Gilbert assured her that nothing significant had happened to them. However, Prince Tobias declared that Dia was the mastermind behind the rebellion. He even requested that other countries capture both Dia and Pascal, dead or alive. Pascal argued that this was impossible since they had been inside the dungeon the entire time. Sieg agreed and defended Dia, saying she had even acted as a decoy to protect everyone in the dungeon. He insisted that someone willing to risk their life like that could never be a traitor. Gilbert shared the same thoughts. He had also heard from Willie that someone was targeting Dia's life. Sieg then realized who Willie had been speaking to earlier. Gilbert further explained that Prince Tobias had not provided enough evidence to prove Dia was behind the rebellion. There were too many things that didn't add up. Willie agreed, saying the whole situation seemed rushed, as if someone was desperate to get rid of Dia. He had also heard about Prince Tobias's cruel and tyrannical nature. On top of that, there were tensions within the Estonian royal family due to the battle for succession. He wondered how many countries actually believed the prince's accusations. Gilbert then reminded him to be careful with his words, as they were speaking in front of the princess. Dia said she didn't want a battle that involved innocent citizens. She insisted that her brother would never do such a thing. Gilbert stayed silent for a moment before explaining that they only wanted to protect her. Wilbert then reminded him that Dia was currently a princess suspected of being the mastermind behind a rebellion. However, Gilbert couldn't ignore such injustice in his own land. More than anything, he didn't want to stand by and do nothing while a falsely accused child walked into danger. Since Willie was already on Dia's side, he decided to help as well. He also mentioned that this incident was somehow connected to their own investigation. If they could gain the support of a princess and a count, it would also benefit their family. Besides that, he couldn't ignore Sieg's feelings, knowing how sad he would be if his first friend was left to suffer alone. Sieg thanked both his father and uncle. Pascal promised to never forget their kindness, and Emma also expressed her gratitude. Willie then asked to borrow the broken concealment tool, explaining that the Abel family had a skilled magic tool craftsman who could repair it. That way, Dia could continue hiding. Willie relied on his brother, and Gilbert asked the same when reporting to the Magesta royal family. He explained that negotiations were necessary to get official approval for protection, but given the current situation, they might lack the necessary materials. Willie had his concerns, but when he looked at the 2 innocent children in front of him, An idea suddenly came to him. His smirk showed that he had thought of something clever. If things went well, he might even ask Dia and her group for help. He told them to go to the Abel family's mansion and stay hidden there until the situation settled down. He apologized for the inconvenience, but Dia said she was already grateful for their help and sincerely thanked them. Willie then said he had other matters to take care of. Sieg asked what he meant, but Willie simply replied that he needed to speak with one more person. Meanwhile, Camille remembered how Daniela had used him and then abandoned him. He couldn't believe he was dying without saving anyone or completing his mission to protect the princess. He knew no one would mourn him, but he still wanted to live, even if it meant living in disgrace. Suddenly, he woke up to the sound of Dia calling his name in worry. When he tried to get up, pain spread through his body. Dia told him not to push himself, and Pascal warned her not to move away from Camille. Diana felt relieved that he was still alive. Just then, Willie appeared and told Camille that his wounds hadn't fully healed yet. He said he had questions about the attempted assassination of the princess. He also warned that Mangesta knights had surrounded the area, making escape impossible. Sieg noticed the difference in the way his uncle spoke to him compared to the others. He wondered if this was the commanding presence of the 3rd Magic Corps captain. Camille swore that he wouldn't run. He sincerely apologized for what had happened in the dungeon, admitting that attacking the Red Mage had been his foolish mistake. He knew that bowing his head wouldn't fix anything, but he was ready to accept any punishment and answer any questions. However, he didn't have much information to share. Willie was pleased that Camille wasn't just a reckless fool, which made the interrogation easier. Willie then asked how long Camille had been working with Daniela. Camille explained that it had only been in the dungeon. He shared that Daniela had suspected Willie because he had secretly contacted someone outside. She believed that the Red Mage was plotting to assassinate Dia. Willie then asked if Camille had trusted Daniela without any doubts. Camille couldn't answer. Pascal spoke up, explaining that the princess's knights were chosen based on skill and experience. Distrusting them would mean distrusting the nobles and royals who recommended them. Willie then asked who had recommended Daniela. Pascal replied that it was Marquis Beaker, a supporter of Prince Tobias. Willie then asked if they knew anything else about Daniela. Camille recalled that she hadn't interacted much with the other guards and simply carried out her duties in silence. Finally, Willie asked Camille if he knew anything about the rebellion in Estania, which Dia was being accused of masterminding. Camille was shocked. He couldn't believe there was a rebellion, let alone that Dia was behind it. He called the accusation ridiculous. Willie pressed him, asking if he was absolutely sure he had no knowledge of it. Camille insisted that there was no reason for Dia to do such a thing. He firmly stated that Dia was not a suspect. He had never seen her behave in any way that suggested rebellion. He added that someone who had just told him they were happy he was alive would never start such a conflict. Willie told Camille not to worry because he wasn't suspicious of Dia at all. However, he couldn't fully trust Camille's words, especially since he had been one of Camille's victims before. Camille then offered himself to be tested in any way necessary, and even suggested using magic to prove he wasn't lying. Since Camille was willing, Willie asked if he could look inside his mind. He reassured him that he wouldn't physically open his head. Instead, he explained that there was a magic tool originally created to read the memories of nonverbal things like plants. However, it had never been tested on a living human before, and he wasn't sure if it would cause pain or have side effects. Sieg protested, saying his uncle was going too far, but Willie insisted that this was the only way he could trust Camille. If Camille truly wanted to protect Dia, he needed to help prove her innocence. Willie then asked if Camille was ready to provide reliable information. Camille hesitated, and Dia looked at him with concern. He remembered how relieved she had been to see him alive. When Dia tried to stop Willie herself, Camille made his decision. He agreed to the proposal as long as it would prove Dia's innocence. He took full responsibility for his failure, and as the princess's guard knight, he could no longer allow himself to be foolish. Seeing Camille's determination, Willie found him interesting. Without wasting time, he asked Camille to show his courage right away by helping him test the new transfer stones. He assured Camille that he wouldn't force him to go 3 days without sleep and that the magic tool wouldn't take his life. Camille hesitated, trying to change Willie's mind, but Willie reminded him of how he had injured his back in the past and how he had already accepted any punishment. He then asked if he could borrow Camille, and also mentioned how he planned to inform the Crown Prince of Mangesta about Dia. Before leaving, he told Sieg to send his regards to Gilbert. With that, Willie and Camille vanished from the room. Sieg broke into a cold sweat and Dia started crying. He assured her that his uncle was probably a kind person. Dia said she needed time to think about what to do next. Sieg then remembered the moment he reunited with his mother. He told Dia not to carry the burden alone and said it was okay to rely on others. He reminded her that Pascal and Emma were with him, and even the Abel family supported her. He assured her that she had him too, and promised they would face the situation together. Dia agreed, and Sieg felt relieved, smiling at her. He then wondered if this trial was caused by his own bad luck or if it was just a coincidence. He didn't know for sure, but now that he had inherited the power to change the world, unexpected challenges would likely appear. Even so, he refused to sacrifice anyone. To protect those he cared about, he needed to become stronger. A few days later in Mangesta Castle, a man burst into laughter. A servant asked what was wrong, but Prince Julius brushed it off, saying it was nothing. He had just received a letter from Wilbert after a long time. Curious about what was happening, he found the Abel family's plans interesting. He guessed it had something to do with the treasure. Julius then ordered his servant to clear his schedule because he planned to meet with the Abel family. The request they sent was outrageous, but he didn't mind, as long as he could make an equally bold request in return. Sieg finally made it back home, where his brother and sister immediately showered him with affection, hugging him so tightly he could barely breathe. They were just relieved that he had returned safely. Albert then said he had a gift to celebrate Sieg's return, a cute headband with drooping rabbit ears. Both Albert and Ariane thought their little brother looked adorable. Sieg reminded them that he was a boy, but Albert insisted that cuteness had nothing to do with gender. Theo stepped in, asking them to let Sieg rest since he was tired. Meanwhile, Dia was surprised to see such a scene. Albert suddenly remembered that he had been the one escorting the princesses group in the capital and apologized for the noise. Dia didn't mind, saying it was nice to see siblings getting along so well. For now, the princesses group was allowed to stay in the Abels' separate house until things settled down. Ariane told them to rest as much as they needed, and to ask for anything they wanted. Dia and the others thanked them for all their help. Sieg promised to visit Dia later with books and delicious sweets, which made Dia look forward to it. After the princesses group left, Ariane teasingly asked Sieg what was going on, noticing how close he and Dia had become. Sieg brushed it off, saying they were just friends. Later, Sieg collapsed onto his bed with Kohaku, finally feeling at ease in his own room. Kohaku agreed, sharing Sieg's relief. Sieg had only wanted to gather magic sand from the spirit forest, but ended up with something far more troublesome: the Sword of Uparts. Since then, he hadn't heard the sword's voice. Still, it was thanks to the sword that he had been able to use advanced magic. Even with his appraisal eyes, the sword's information remained unclear. Helper explained that the sword was sealed with a mysterious power, which made it impossible to analyze. Sieg figured that there were some things even Helper couldn't figure out. Helper, feeling his pride on the line, asked for more time to try using his special appraisal eyes to gather more information. Sieg encouraged him to keep trying. Sieg also remembered that the sword knew about the Abel's treasure. The dungeon had been created to hide the shards of the creator's soul which were connected to the treasure. His head hurt just thinking about it. He had promised his mother to protect the treasure, but he still didn't know how. He considered asking his father directly or searching the family library for answers. At the same time, the trials for the lucky one were becoming harder and he needed to improve his magic. He wanted Willie to teach him more, but his ability to use advanced magic was still a secret. At that moment, Sieg decided not to keep secrets anymore. He couldn't move forward while hiding the truth. He was scared of what the adults would say, but he knew that he could only rely on his family. Willie and Gilbert received a message from Prince Julius, saying he would make a decision after hearing the full details. For now, they needed to explain the situation to the prince, who handled diplomatic matters. Willie reassured his worried brother, telling him to leave the negotiations to him, especially since Julius had a habit of digging into unpleasant details. Soon they met Julius, who was relaxing in the garden. Willie apologized for making him wait, but Julius didn't mind. He said he had been looking forward to hearing an interesting story. Julius mentioned that he found Willie's letter amusing, though Willie didn't remember writing anything funny. The prince admitted he had a lot of questions but wanted to focus on the main objective first. He asked why the Abels chose to protect Dia, even if it meant turning against Estania. More importantly, he wanted to understand why Willie was trying so hard to win Princess Diana's favor, and whether there was something in Estania valuable enough to justify that effort. Willie was impressed that Julius figured out so much from the letter alone. Willie explained that his goal was to gather more information about the magic school in Estania. Julius questioned why he needed information about their own magic school in Estania. Willie revealed that assassins from Estania had been using magic tools from the school. He reminded the prince that the magic school was supposed to be an impenetrable fortress and a secure educational institution, making it impossible for outsiders to steal magic tools. This led Willie to believe that someone from the school was secretly supplying magic tools to Estania, which he wanted to uncover. Willie shared that the Abels had a beloved family member who was cursed years ago. They had searched for the culprit for years, even after that family member died. However, a recent attack on their family made them suspect that the culprit was connected to the magic school. He couldn't reveal that it was about Gelt. Julius concluded that it was all about protecting their treasure. Willie admitted that directly investigating the magic school was impossible because they were part of the Abels. Julius agreed, noting that the institution was wary of both the Abels and the royal family. He suspected that the dark magic department was controlling everything from behind the scenes. Julius added that the royal family also wanted to investigate, but the institution was essentially holding the children of noble families hostage. Willie suggested that it would be better to investigate from the outside since controlling the flow of information from within the school was nearly impossible. Julius then understood why Willie wanted to involve the princess, calling it a roundabout approach that didn't seem like Willie's usual style. Gilbert didn't care about the method. Someone had hurt their family's treasure, and he was determined to find the culprit and make them pay. Julius understood their motive but pointed out that his royal family of Mangesta had no stake in the matter. He reminded them that the Abels' so-called treasure was nothing more than a mysterious entity to them. Willie argued that the information from the magic school could benefit the royal family, but Julius doubted it would be useful enough to justify a risky negotiation that might spark a war. He reminded them that while the royal family had long-standing ties with the Abels, protecting a suspected traitor wasn't something they could agree to without solid justification. Still, Julius admitted that the other negotiation mentioned in the letter seemed amusing. Willie insisted it wasn't a laughing matter. Julius apologized, saying he couldn't understand how the measure mentioned in the letter was supposed to protect Princess Diana. Willie confirmed that it was true. Julius apologized for laughing but then made a serious proposal. If Willie accepted, Julius promised to personally negotiate with Estonia. He wanted Willie to accept a noble title, essentially putting him under Mangesta's control for life. Thanks to Willie, the country's magical technology had advanced significantly. On top of that, Willie was a powerful fighter who had conquered countless dungeons and retrieved valuable OO parts. Such strength could destabilize a nation if another country gained control over him. Willie asked if Julius really thought he would betray his country. Julius wasn't saying the chances were zero. He knew that Willie had little interest in the country or even the royal family. Willie gave him a cold glare. Julius admitted that it would have been better if Willie shared Gilbert's patriotism. Since he didn't, Julius wanted to secure his loyalty through a formal contract between a lord and a vassal, ensuring that Willie would never turn against them. Willie called him an overthinker and Julius agreed, saying he always imagined the worst-case scenarios. That was how much he valued Willie, enough to weigh his loyalty against the safety of the country. Willie's accomplishments already deserved a noble title, and Julius, as a lord, wanted the authority to command him. He asked if Willie would accept the title and settle in Mangesta, or if he should send Princess Diana back to Estonia. After thinking for a while, Willie sighed. He had no choice but to agree to Julius's terms. The prince was pleased and instructed him to prepare a mansion and hire some retainers. Willie claimed he could manage on his own, but Julius gave him 1 month to prepare for the investiture ceremony or the negotiations with Estonia would fall apart. Julius added that having responsibilities would tie him to Mangesta. Willie called him shrewd. Julius then offered him land on the western frontier, an undeveloped area with nothing. Willie couldn't believe he was being ordered to farm. Julius promised to handle the negotiations with Estonia, assuring Willie that he never failed. He said he was looking forward to Willie's investiture ceremony. After the prince left, Willie complained about how Julius had beaten him. Gilbert said this was a good chance for Willie to settle down. However, Willie insisted he would keep wandering, though more carefully, since he had more work to do now. He didn't mind it as long as it was for the sake of the adorable kids. After conquering the dungeon and securing the treasure, Willie realized it had triggered something in Sieg, leaving him with no choice but to handle things however necessary. Gilbert suggested building a mansion near the Abels' estate, but Willie refused. He didn't plan to stay long, so renting a nearby vacant house seemed like a better option. The only problem was the retainers. They didn't have anyone they could trust. Willie already assumed the prince wouldn't lend him extra help. Since the Abels had many secrets, they couldn't just hire ordinary people. Just then, Willie remembered Theo and his friend. That's when he realized there was only one person the Abels could truly trust, the one and only Nikolai. Nikolai was called to the Abels' mansion, unsure of what was happening. When he asked Sieg about it, Sieg admitted he didn't know much, so Theo explained the situation. Their uncle had asked for both Nikolai and Sieg shortly after returning from the royal capital. Theo was also confused since Willie had just been granted a noble title. Nikolai wondered if he was about to be scolded for taking Theo and Sieg on a monster hunt, but Theo assured him that the adults already knew about it. Just then, Willie arrived and thanked Nikolai for responding to his summons. Nikolai gave a stiff greeting, but Willie told him to speak casually. Willie then explained that he had called Nikolai to discuss a matter related to Sieg. Nikolai immediately understood it was work-related. Willie got straight to the point and asked Nikolai to become his retainer. Nikolai was shocked and asked why Willie had chosen him. Willie explained that as a newly independent noble, he needed someone he could trust. He knew Nikolai was aware of Sieg's special magic but had never spoken about it to anyone. Willie said he chose Nikolai because of his discretion, especially since the Abel family had many secrets. However, Nikolai's role would only be a formality. Willie's true goal was to protect Sieg. Nikolai said he would be grateful to work under the Abel family. Theo realized that this might have something to do with protecting Sieg. Willie then brought out the usual contract and asked Nikolai to swear never to reveal any information about Sieg, even if it cost him his life. Nikolai was shocked. Willie explained that everyone assigned to Sieg had signed the same contract. In return for their loyalty, the Abel family guaranteed their livelihood and protection. Willie offered Nikolai the same deal. Willie mentioned that Nikolai's sister wasn't in good condition. Sieg remembered Nikolai once saying that his sister was sick. Willie recalled that the Bodens, Nikolai's family, had been deceived by another noble during the previous head's reign, which led to their downfall. Nikolai's father tried to rebuild the family but eventually died from illness. Afterward, Nikolai sold everything, his estate and assets, to pay for his sister's treatment. Now, they lived in a rented house. Nikolai admitted that the estate had been sold a while ago and insisted it wasn't Sarah's, his sister's, fault. He blamed himself for not being strong enough to protect his family. Willie asked if a cure had been found, but Nikolai confirmed that every doctor had given up. For now, he could only use magic herbs to keep the disease from getting worse. Willie then shared that his appraisal eyes might help identify the cause of Sarah's illness. Since Nikolai hadn't yet used appraisal eyes on his sister, Willie suggested it was worth trying. Even if they couldn't find the cause, Willie promised to take responsibility for securing the herbs and searching for a cure if Nikolai agreed to become his retainer. He also guaranteed food, shelter, and care for Nikolai, his sister, and their servants, calling it a favorable offer. Nikolai asked Willie if he could really save Sarah. Willie promised not to betray Theo's and Sieg's friend. Without hesitation, Nikolai immediately decided to become Willie's retainer. Theo warned him about Willie's contract, which could even take a person's life. But since Nikolai was someone who always took risks, he didn't hesitate to sign the contract with his blood, determined to save his sister no matter the cost. Willie couldn't really recommend such a mindset. Nikolai was confused by his reaction, but Willie told him not to worry since the negotiations were over. Willie felt relieved that things had gone smoothly and looked forward to working with Nikolai from then on. As Willie left the room, Nikolai mentioned how surprised he was to become Sieg's bodyguard. Sieg was equally surprised and jokingly asked if Nikolai would start calling him master. Sieg asked him not to. He wondered if taking in Nikolai as a retainer had something to do with the negotiations with Estonia. Everything seemed complicated. Nikolai then thought about how to explain things to his sister and the servants about what he had just agreed to. Just then, Theo called out to Nikolai and asked to speak with him. Theo couldn't believe that Nikolai had sold their mansion without discussing it with him first. Nikolai explained that Theo had already helped him enough, and he didn't want to burden him with money matters. Relying on someone from a powerful family like Theo didn't feel right to him. Theo then asked if Nikolai would help a friend if they were in need. Even though Theo couldn't offer money himself, he could have asked his uncle for help. He wished Nikolai had at least talked to him about it first. Nikolai was surprised and apologized. Theo then walked away to prepare a room for Nikolai's sister and asked if there were any specific furnishings she would need. Nikolai told him not to go that far, but Theo insisted. Nikolai finally admitted that Sarah liked white rooms because they were calming. He shyly thanked Theo, who accepted his thanks. A few days later, in the Abel family's annex house, Theo told Ariane that the Bodens would arrive soon. Ariane mentioned that the mansion didn't feel lonely anymore since they had guests. Just then, the Bodens teleported into the house. A little girl hiding her face under a hoodie stood quietly. Nikolai worriedly asked Sarah if she was feeling okay after the teleportation. Sarah confirmed she was fine. Ariane welcomed the Bodens, introduced herself as the mansion's steward, and offered to guide them to their room. Nikolai greeted Ariane for the first time and suggested that Sieg should get along with Sarah since they were close in age. Ariane quickly told him not to be rough with Sieg. Nikolai claimed it was just their usual way of greeting, but Ariane continued to complain about it. Sarah then reminded her brother to greet others properly. Nikolai introduced their servants, the Hannah couple, who had stayed with them until the end. Sarah introduced herself and apologized for her shabby appearance, but Ariane didn't mind. Sarah then asked about her brother's master, said she didn't need any treatment, and requested to have the contract cancelled. Everyone was shocked when Nikolai asked what Sarah meant. Sieg also asked what was wrong. Sarah said the Abel's kindness was wonderful, but she couldn't accept the sacrifice her brother would have to make. Nikolai reassured her that he was fine and it wasn't a big deal. He insisted that he would do anything for her. Sarah refused and begged her brother not to do anything. As she tried to leave, she tripped on her robe. Sieg caught her and noticed dark spots on her face. Sarah quickly covered herself and Sieg apologized. Mrs. Hannah then realized that Sarah had another fever. Ariane offered to take them to their room and suggested they rest before leaving. Mrs. Hannah agreed and followed Ariane while supporting Sarah. Nikolai watched them leave, still worried about Sarah refusing treatment. Theo wondered if Sarah had learned about the contract costing a life, but Nikolai denied it. Still, he knew how perceptive his sister was. Sieg couldn't stop thinking about Sarah's pained expression. He felt sorry for her, knowing she had been struggling with the disease for so long. Meanwhile, Nikolai tried to go after Sarah to convince her, but Theo stopped him, saying they should both calm down first. Sieg then suggested going to the garden, thinking that seeing the flowers might cheer Sarah up. He hoped they could come to an understanding if they talked things through as siblings. Nikolai thanked him for the advice. Meanwhile, in Sarah's room, Ariane asked if she was feeling better. Sarah apologized for the trouble, but Ariane told her not to feel sorry since she was the one suffering the most. Sarah said that everyone was suffering because of her. Ariane agreed, mentioning that Nikolai was especially affected. Even though he might seem rough, Ariane knew he cared deeply for his sister. She assured Sarah that no one was to blame. However, Sarah kept insisting that it was all her fault. Ariane then gently asked what had happened, if Sarah didn't mind sharing. Sarah explained that her illness had worsened several years ago, around the time their father passed away. Her brother and everyone else did their best to help her, but nothing seemed to work. Eventually, they discovered that magical herbs could ease her symptoms. However, Sarah began to notice that the money from their shop was disappearing little by little. In the end, they had to sell their mansion. When Sarah learned that the money was used to buy the herbs, she was so shocked that she didn't know what to say. The house where she had shared so many memories with her family was reduced to pieces, turned into medicine. Drinking the magical herbs became difficult for Sarah after that. But if she didn't take them, her brother would be the one suffering. She had no choice but to drink them. Despite her brother's efforts, Sarah knew deep down that she was like a flower that couldn't bloom, no matter how much nourishment she received. Ariane asked Sarah if she knew the details of the contract. When Sarah heard about the examination of her illness, she had a bad feeling and asked her brother if it would put his life in danger. Her brother had a habit of stuttering when he lied, which confirmed her suspicion. She loved her brother deeply since he had always been by her side. Nikolai, who was picking flowers, would often tell Sarah wonderful stories to cheer her up. He remembered her favorite flowers and things without fail. Sarah couldn't imagine life without her brother, but all she seemed to do was take from him. She knew too well that her brother would do anything for her, even risk his life, something she couldn't bear. Ariane hugged Sarah, understanding how hard it must have been to keep everything bottled up for so long. She thanked Sarah for opening up about her worries. Sarah admitted that she wanted to laugh with her brother again, just like before. She longed to be genuinely happy when receiving his gifts, but her current condition made that difficult. Nikolai, who had been standing outside the room holding a flower pot, overheard Sarah's words. His heart ached, and he gripped the pot tightly. Sieg noticed his distress and looked at him with concern. Nikolai then handed the flower to Sieg and asked him to give it to Sarah on his behalf. He walked away, telling the able siblings that he couldn't face Sarah right now. Theo and Sieg watched silently as Nikolai walked off, his back heavy with sadness. Theo told Willie about the situation and Willie understood. Willie didn't want to use his appraisal eyes without permission, so he suggested giving the Baden siblings some time. Nikolai sat outside looking downcast. Sieg and Kohaku sat beside him to comfort him. Nikolai shared how his father had suddenly fallen ill when Sarah was still a child. The shock of it all might have caused Sarah's condition to worsen, and he feared she would die just like their father. That fear haunted him, and he struggled to keep going. Desperate to save Sarah, he searched for doctors, and Sarah improved a little thanks to some magic herbs. But to pay for her treatment, he gave up everything his father had worked so hard to rebuild. Nikolai blamed himself for not being smarter and thought he could have done better. He tried to handle everything alone, not wanting to burden anyone else. But the weight of it all became too much, and he ended up hurting his friends and family. He thought he was protecting them, but he now realized he was just being stubborn. Deep down, he knew he wasn't strong enough to do everything alone, but he had forgotten how to lean on others. Even though he understood this now, it felt too late. The house Sarah loved and their father's legacy were gone. He felt like he had ruined everything. Sieg reminded Nikolai that he had still managed to protect Sarah in the end. He told Nikolai that if he worked hard and grew stronger, he could rebuild what was lost. But Sieg also reminded him that a life lost could never be brought back. Still, Nikolai had a chance to start over because he now had people who wanted to share the burden and support him, including the Abels and Sarah. Sieg urged him not to give up, to stand up and this time walk forward with everyone by his side. Nikolai noticed Sarah approaching, seated in a magic wheelchair that Ariane had created. Sarah said she was worried because Nikolai hadn't returned by nightfall. She wondered if he was angry because she had been selfish. Nikolai reassured her that he wasn't angry and understood why she was worried. He admitted that her feeling was right. He had made a life-threatening contract to keep a secret he couldn't tell anyone. However, it also meant that his master trusted him to keep the promise. He promised Sarah that he wouldn't die before her because he intended to honor his master's trust and keep her from being sad. He asked her to trust him. Nikolai remembered Sieg's advice about sharing his burdens. If the appraisal eyes found a cure and Sarah got better, he asked her to help him afterward. He knew he was asking a lot, but he admitted he couldn't regain everything they had lost on his own. With Sarah's support, he felt like he could start over. Sarah told him that she had always wanted to help her brother. She promised not to let her illness defeat her, and vowed to get better so she could support him. She said there was no pain because Nikolai had always been there for her, and that was why she was able to keep going. She swore it was true. Nikolai apologized to Sarah, and the Bodden siblings finally came to an understanding. The next day, Willie went to Sarah's room and used his appraisal eyes. He quickly realized why the doctors couldn't figure out Sarah's condition. He identified it as magic saturation, a rare condition where magic builds up in the body because it can't be released properly, causing various health problems. The blisters covering Sarah's body were a side effect of this buildup. He also noted that Sarah naturally produced a large amount of magic, which should have been an advantage. However, because her body struggled to release magic, it led to this dangerous state. Willie then understood why the magic herbs had been helping. They had properties that absorbed magic. Nikolai, looking worried, asked if Sarah would recover. After a brief pause, Willie assured him that there was a cure. However, the immediate problem was the excess magic trapped in Sarah's body. It needed to be released first or the treatment wouldn't work, and her body wouldn't survive the strain. Willie explained that they would need cursed magic to absorb the excess magic. When Nikolai asked if Willie could use it, Willie admitted that even the powerful red mage couldn't. Cursed magic was the rarest of all magic types, and those who mastered it often lost their humanity, becoming twisted individuals. Trusting Sarah's life to someone like that seemed impossible. Nikolai wondered if the magic herbs could help, but Willie warned about the dangers of overdose. For now, they needed to find someone with a natural ability for cursed magic, but Willie knew how hard it would be to find such a person. Nikolai was about to give up when Sieg asked his uncle to let him handle it. Willie looked confused, but Sieg quickly said he could help find someone who could save Sarah. Nikolai doubted that such a person even existed, but Sieg insisted there was and asked them to trust him. Nikolai figured Sieg was suggesting they keep searching until they found someone. He then asked Willie what he could do to help. Willie told Nikolai to stay by Sarah's side while he searched for a cursed magic user. He also reminded them to use the correct dosage of magical herbs, since overdosing could be dangerous. Sieg realized there was no point in keeping secrets anymore. He approached his uncle and admitted he had something to tell him. Sieg hesitated, struggling to find the right words, but eventually confessed that he possessed advanced magic attributes, including cursed magic. Willie was shocked but remained calm and asked Sieg if he could appraise him. Sieg agreed, saying he wouldn't hide it anymore. He then unlocked everything, and Willie's eyes widened in disbelief. Sieg apologized for keeping it a secret, explaining that he didn't want to burden his family. But now that Sarah needed help, he couldn't stand by and do nothing. He wanted to see everyone smile again and believed he had the power to make that happen. Willie burst out laughing, saying he always had a feeling about Sieg but never thought he had everything. He couldn't believe Sieg had managed to hide things from his appraisal eyes and asked how long he had been doing it. Willie guessed it had been since Sieg was born. Seeing his uncle's sly grin, Sieg struggled to find the right words. He didn't know if he should tell Willie about his appraisal eyes, the helper system, or his past life. Willie apologized for getting carried away. He admitted that Sieg was more special than he expected, and might be a mysterious being like himself. Sieg felt uneasy after hearing his uncle's confession. Willie admitted that he also had secrets he couldn't share with his own family. He understood what it was like to keep things hidden, and told Sieg to share his secrets only when he was ready. Willie said there would be a time for them to reveal their secrets to each other, but now wasn't that time. Sieg couldn't help but feel that his uncle was just like him, someone carrying a hidden truth. Willie returned to the main topic about using cursed magic and told Sieg that he should train first. Sieg asked his uncle to train him so he could master it. Willie warned him not to rush since using cursed magic required a great sacrifice from the user. He believed Sieg could learn on his own without direct guidance. Willie admitted that he didn't want his nephew to learn such dangerous magic, but seeing Sieg's determination, he agreed to teach him since it would be safer that way. He said they would start right away and warned Sieg that advanced magic training wouldn't be easy, but Sieg should be ready for it. Sieg promised to do his best. He felt scared, but relieved that he had told his uncle about his long-kept secret. Willie seemed mysterious right now, but Sieg knew he had to focus on the current problem. He didn't want to regret not using his power again and swore to save someone this time. Meanwhile, Willie received a message from Mangesta's royal family. It stated that Julius had already started negotiating with Estonia. Willie wondered how Estonia would respond to their proposal. In Estonia's royal palace, Prince Tobias lashed out at a servant after reading a letter. He couldn't believe that Dia was being protected by Mangesta instead of being returned. He angrily questioned what connection Dia had with Mangesta and the Abel family. The servant explained that other members of the royal family suggested inviting Dia and those from Mangesta to Estania for another round of negotiations. With the martial arts tournament approaching, they likely wanted to avoid making the situation worse. Prince Tobias suddenly remembered that the tournament was coming up. A plan formed in his mind. He would invite those from Mangesta and eliminate the Abel family, along with Dia. A few days later, Sarah sat quietly as Ariane helped her get dressed. Sarah apologized for the trouble, but Ariane said it was fine since she rarely got the chance to dress someone up. As the only girl among her siblings, she used to dress up Sieg when they were younger, but he had been avoiding her lately. Helping Sarah now made Ariane feel like she had a little sister, which made her happy. Sarah quietly murmured that she felt the same, but when Ariane asked what she said, Sarah brushed it off. Ariane then mentioned that it was finally time for Sarah's treatment. Her uncle had managed to find the curse mage quickly, just as she expected. Sarah asked if things would go well, and Ariane reassured her that she would soon become a strong girl who could support her brother. She told Sarah to believe in everyone and to do her best. Sarah promised that she would definitely change. Theo then announced that only Sarah was allowed to enter the treatment room. Ariane asked where Sieg was, but Theo didn't know either. Nikolai encouraged Sarah to do her best and promised to rush to her side if anything happened. He seemed anxious, and Theo told him to calm down. Sarah assured her brother that everything would be fine and that she would return soon. When Sarah stepped into the room, she was surprised to see Sieg waiting for her. Willie cast a barrier around the room and apologized. He explained that what they were about to do was top secret and asked Sarah to sign a contract, the same one Nikolai had signed. According to the contract, Sarah couldn't talk about the treatment that Sieg would perform on her. Sarah felt confused. Sieg then revealed that he had an aptitude for curse magic. Willie added that even though Sieg was younger than Sarah, he was an excellent magician. As the deputy commander of the 3rd Magic Corps, Willie guaranteed that Sieg could treat her. He then asked if she trusted his words. Sarah confirmed that she trusted Sieg since everyone in the Abel family had been kind to her. She decided to put her trust in Sieg, and he thanked her. Willie then instructed her to sign the contract, warning that she could lose her life if she broke it. He also mentioned that he hadn't told Nikolai about it. Sarah promised not to tell her brother, pointing out that Nikolai had signed the same contract on his own. She said this would make them even, then signed the contract. Willie was relieved that the negotiations were finished. Willie told Sieg that he would be waiting outside and asked him to call if anything happened. He reminded Sieg to follow the plan they had practiced, but warned him about the side effects of the curse absorption, including hallucinations, hearing voices, and mental stress. He advised Sieg not to panic and to keep his mind strong. Sieg understood. He hadn't had much time to practice, but he was determined to give his best to heal Sarah. Willie wished him luck and left the room. The kids had been left alone when Sieg reached out for Sarah's hand. Sarah looked unsure, but Sieg said it was necessary for the treatment. Sarah hesitated before showing her bruised hand, leaving Sieg speechless for a moment. He then assured her that she and her brother could start over. He promised to make that possible for them. Sieg began using curse absorption on Sarah, drawing out the accumulated magic from her body. Sarah felt the pain as Sieg focused on pulling out the evil energy and expelling it. He knew he had to maintain control if he wanted to save her. Suddenly, Sieg started hearing voices telling him that someone who killed his own mother couldn't possibly save Sarah. The expelled magic took the form of his older brother, Gelt. Gelt mocked Sieg, calling him weak and unworthy of such power. He claimed Sieg didn't deserve the supreme treasure and threatened to take it for himself. Gelt demanded Sieg's life. Sieg realized these were just side effects, but the feelings they stirred were real. He noticed Sarah trembling and understood she was scared. Enduring curse absorption was painful, and the uncertainty of whether she would truly be cured must have made her anxious. But Sieg remembered how Sarah believed in him. He couldn't afford to show fear now. Gelt might represent his weakness, but Sieg knew he couldn't lose. Right now, he was using his magic to save Sarah. Even if his magic was imperfect and unstable, he was the only one who could do it. He refused to repeat the mistakes of the past. This time, he would save someone. Fueled by pure determination, Sieg shattered the hallucinations. A bright light surrounded him and Sarah. When Sarah opened her eyes, she saw the glow around them. Sieg touched her cheek and assured her it was over. She was now safe. Nikolai waited nervously in front of the door. Theo approached him and handed him the flowers Nikolai had meant to give to Sarah. He told Nikolai it would be best if he gave them to her himself. Nikolai still felt anxious, but Theo reassured him that Sarah would be fine. Just then, the door opened and Nikolai quickly turned around. Sarah appeared, smiling brightly as she greeted her brother. She showed them that the swelling and dark spots were completely gone. When she noticed the flowers, Nikolai explained that he had meant to give them to her. Sarah took the flowers and smiled, happy that her brother remembered her favorite ones. She exclaimed how happy she was. Nikolai was too stunned to respond. He lowered his head as tears began streaming down his cheeks. Overwhelmed with relief, he started to cry. Sarah then gave her brother a warm hug. Sieg took a peek while Willie suggested giving the Bodden siblings some space and time. He explained that Sarah's treatment had just begun, but if she managed to get through the rehab and training, she would become a reliable supporter for her brother. Sieg agreed. Willie then asked if Sieg was feeling okay since he had used a lot of magical power, which should have caused serious side effects. Sieg assured him that he managed to get through it somehow. At that moment, Sieg realized he hadn't run away from his brother's shadow this time. He promised himself that if he ever met his brother in person again, he would face him properly. Willie was relieved that his issue with finding a vassal was solved. He had already bought a mansion, and the only thing left was his conferment as a noble. He also told Sieg that Dia's concealment magic tool had been repaired, and asked him to deliver it to her. Willie mentioned that he had something important to discuss with them. Later, in the annex mansion, Dia was finally able to hide her true appearance. She thanked Willie for his help. Willie brushed it off, saying he only wanted her to attend his conferment ceremony. Dia was confused about being invited, but Willie confirmed it and mentioned that he had something important to discuss with both her and Sieg. Sieg admitted that he didn't know about it yet. Willie then revealed that the plan he was proposing was crucial for protecting Dia. He suddenly asked Sieg to get engaged to Dia. The proposal shocked both of them, making them scream in surprise and confusion. On the day of Willie's title conferment ceremony, people were talking about the engagement between Sieg and Dia. They were curious since Dia was rumored to be a princess planning to start a rebellion, while Sieg was the youngest of the Abels who had never appeared in public before. Everyone wondered if the two would show up at the ceremony. The Abel family finally entered the hall with Willie leading the way. Dia followed closely behind Sieg. Willie waved to the crowd, Gilbert kept his usual serious expression, and Ariane looked around the room. Albert and Thea walked behind them, followed by Frau and Nikolai. Dia noticed the whispers about her and responded with a calm, elegant smile. Sieg admired how composed she remained despite the tense atmosphere. Her dignified presence seemed to draw everyone's attention. Sieg felt unworthy standing next to her but reminded himself not to get intimidated. After all, he was now Dia's fiancé. In a flashback, Willie had told the kids not to worry since the engagement was only a cover. It was a strategy to protect Dia, who was currently being targeted. If the conflict involved the Estanian royal succession, Prince Toby's might back off since marrying someone from another country would cost Dia her place in the succession. Dia understood the situation right away, which relieved Willie. He had shared his plan to announce the engagement during his title conferment ceremony. Sieg realized how quickly the situation had escalated, and worried that Dia might feel uncomfortable being engaged to him. However, Dia had accepted the plan without hesitation, which surprised Sieg. Dia was also concerned about causing trouble for Sieg, but Sieg reassured her that it wouldn't be a problem. He was willing to go through with the fake engagement if it meant protecting an important friend. Though the idea of being engaged flustered him, Sieg knew this was his way of helping her. Willie expected the two to accept his plan since he had already informed the other side. Since they were already comfortable with each other, he told the kids to act normally and everything should be fine. Back in the present, Dia worriedly asked if Sieg was okay. Sieg said he was just thinking about something. He apologized for making things complicated and promised not to cause her trouble again. Dia assured him she was fine. The gathering continued and Nikolai was already complaining about how uncomfortable his uniform was. He asked if he could take it off, but Theo told him to dress properly since he was now their house's attendant. Nikolai understood but admitted that he never liked stiff clothes. He regretted not wearing his armor instead. Meanwhile, Frau was getting close to Ariane, who looked flustered. Ariane remembered that Frau was her uncle's friend. Frau said she had always wanted to meet Ariane after hearing about her from Willie, but she couldn't mention that she had been watching over Ariane since she was a child. Frau explained that she was invited over after helping Willie and Sieg escape from the dungeon. Ariane thanked her for that. Frau proudly said she had used telepathy to contact Willie and inform Gilbert about the situation. When Ariane asked what she meant by telepathy, Frau quickly said it was the power of bonds, forgetting that only people contracted with spirits could communicate through telepathy. Meanwhile, Willie gave Kohaku a shiny cape and a bracelet. Kohaku was happy. Willie explained that the bracelet was a magical charm to keep away bad people. Kohaku proudly showed off his new accessories to Sieg. Sieg thought they looked cool and thanked his uncle. Just then, Sieg's grandfather Herbert and his aunt Louise arrived to greet him. The last time Sieg had seen them was when he was still a baby. He greeted them and they were happy to see how much he had grown. After hearing about Sieg's magic abilities, Louise said she was looking forward to seeing them in action. Herbert then turned his attention to someone else. Dia greeted them and said it was an honor to meet them. She apologized for the trouble caused by the rumors about the rebellion in her country. Herbert told her not to worry since they had already heard about what happened in the dungeon. Louise added that they never doubted her. They reminded Dia that it was their choice to offer help so she didn't need to feel guilty. Dia thanked them for their kindness. Gilbert then asked his father if Gelt would be coming. Herbert said he had sent a letter but got no response. Gilbert said he had done the same but hadn't heard back. Sieg remembered that their grandpa had taken Gelt in. Louise complained about the magic school keeping Gelt there, even when Leah was alive. She said they had to negotiate with the school many times just to let Gelt see Ria, and even then, it was hard to arrange. She understood that the school didn't want to disrupt Gelt's studies, but she felt it was too much to keep a parent from seeing their child. Herbert said it was different this time because Gelt himself had refused the invitation. After Leah's funeral, Gelt swore never to return home. Theo mentioned that he and Ariane never saw Gelt at school, even though they had used search magic. Ariane explained that special students like Gelt were separated from ordinary ones like them. Willie commented that the magic school was known for keeping secrets, which he found frustrating. Prince Julius then joined the conversation, reminding them that anyone with magical abilities was required to attend the magic school. He mentioned that Sieg would eventually enroll there and suggested investigating the school beforehand. Sieg quickly bowed his head in greeting. Julius told him not to be so formal and mentioned that he had heard things from Willie. He then stared at Sieg in silence. Feeling uneasy, Sieg wondered why the prince was looking at him with suspicion. Julius chuckled, amused by how easily children's expressions changed when they were stared at. Willie asked him not to tease Sieg. Julius had advised against talking about the magic school in public. Now that the king had arrived, it was time for the star of the show to step forward. Willie sighed and said he would get ready. Julius was pleased and told him to begin the ceremony. Sieg noticed that everyone was still worried about Gelt after the funeral. He wondered what was happening to his brother at the magic school. The ceremony began with the king granting Willie the title of Count. He urged Willie to use his power for the good of Mangesta and its people. Willie humbly accepted the honor. Afterward, a celebration party followed. Willie danced with Frau, and Ariane was paired with Julius. From afar, Sieg watched how dignified his uncle and sister were at the ball. He hadn't realized before that the Abel family was a noble house equal to royalty. Wanting to live up to his family's name, Sieg hoped to do well, even though he had no experience with events like balls. Dia invited Sieg to dance, suggesting it would be a good way to introduce their engagement to everyone. Sieg agreed, but admitted he didn't know how to dance and might embarrass her. Dia reassured him it would be fine since they were still kids, and clumsiness would be forgiven. She reminded him how he had saved her in the dungeon and said it was now her turn to support him. Encouraged, Sieg invited Dia to dance. She gladly took his hand and led him to the center of the ballroom. They danced under the spotlight as the adults began to notice them. Dia guided Sieg carefully and told him to stand tall and confident, mentioning that he looked handsome. Sieg thanked her and praised how beautiful she was. However, Sieg added that he preferred Dia's usual appearance, saying it suited her better and felt more like the Dia he knew. Dia was surprised and stumbled, but Sieg quickly caught her. She apologized, but Sieg smiled, saying that now he could see the Dia he truly knew. Dia admitted that she always thought people disliked her usual appearance. Sieg reminded her that he had already told her he liked the real her and that in his eyes, her true self was the best. Sieg Riz is better compared to our dear viewers. Dia felt happy hearing those words and thanked Sieg as they continued to dance. The audience thought the two looked cute together, and their doubts about Dia starting a rebellion at such a young age were slowly fading. They couldn't believe someone as young as the Abel's youngest could lead a rebellion. Most of them concluded that Prince Tobias was just making things up as usual. Everyone in the ballroom agreed that the two made a lovely pair. Willie felt relieved that his plan had worked. Later on the balcony, Willie sighed in relief, finally feeling the weight lift off his shoulders. Gilbert asked if this would satisfy Julius. The prince praised them for how well they carried out the plan. He then jokingly mentioned that he had plenty of tasks lined up for Willie now that he was officially a noble, but the matters with Estania had to come first. Willie thanked him for being merciful. In any case, he had fulfilled his promise and now asked Julius to handle the negotiations with Estania. Julius assured them that he had already secured the opportunity in writing. According to Estania's response, they had invited Dia and representatives from Mangesta to the Kingdom of Estania to arrange a direct meeting. However, there were conditions. When Willie asked what they were, Julius explained that the Abels had to participate in the upcoming martial arts tournament. He said this was Estania's only condition for the negotiations. Julius clearly told Gilbert and Willie that Estania had only one condition. They needed someone from the Abel family to join the martial arts tournament. Gilbert didn't understand at first. Then Julius explained that the festival was closely tied to the Abel family. Gilbert confirmed that the tournament happened every 3 years and that a different country hosted it each time. It was a tradition for members of the able family to join and show their strength to other nations. He said Albert should be the one to join, but he was thinking about Estonia's current situation and wanted to wait. Willie then shared that many other nations, like Rinna and even the Empire, also chose not to take part for the same reason. Julius agreed and said there was clearly another reason behind all of this. He added that Albert was also disappointed, but he didn't want to risk sending a trusted escort to the festival. Willie jokingly asked the prince if he was worried. He said he didn't expect Julius to make friends. Julius replied that Willie was the last person he wanted to hear that from. Then Gilbert said he would join the tournament since he was the one who first suggested protecting Princess Diana. He had joined the tournament before, so he felt confident he could spot any tricks or secret plans from Prince Tobias. Just then, someone interrupted. It was Albert. He said he had heard everything and asked them to let him join instead. Willie was surprised to see his nephew take the lead. Albert explained that he wanted to protect his little brother's fiancée. He mentioned how close the two looked during a recent party. Seeing that made him want to keep protecting them and their future. That's when the adults suddenly remembered. They hadn't told Albert the engagement was fake. Julius warned Albert that the tournament could be dangerous and might even risk his life. But Albert said it was the perfect place for someone from the Able family, who were known as the protectors of the treasured artifact. Julius could tell Albert wasn't going to change his mind. In the end, Julius agreed to let Albert join the tournament. He asked Gilbert to stay in Mangesta for a different mission. Gilbert told Albert he would leave the tournament in his hands. Albert promised that as the family's heir, he would bring home victory. Later, at the Able family's separate home, Willie explained the plan to Dia and her group about leaving for Estonia. Dia realized that the time had finally come. The bald count agreed with the plan. Before going over the full strategy, Willie snapped his fingers and canceled the magical contract he had made with Dia back in the dungeon. He said it didn't feel right to have that kind of contract with a family member, even if their engagement had only been pretend. Willie said he trusted the Count and Emma, but everyone else who knew Sieg's secret had to sign a contract to keep it quiet. He apologized for doing that. The Count and Dia understood his reason. Dia then asked if he could cancel Sieg's contract too because it didn't seem fair. Willie told her not to worry. He had only tricked his nephew into signing a fake contract. Sieg was shocked. Willie explained that he had done it because he knew how stubborn Sieg was and didn't want him to get hurt. But after saying it out loud, Willie realized he had made a mistake. Sieg was clearly angry and said that this kind of behavior was something he really disliked about his uncle. Willie was hurt by those words. Still, Willie wanted to continue with the strategy meeting. He said that once Count Balsamud arrived in Estonia, his son Elmont would help them. Elmont had acted fast to stop the rebellion and was able to settle things with only a little damage. The Balsamud family also made it clear they were not part of the rebellion. The Count explained that his son ruled a place near the border and was well trusted by the people, so working together wouldn't seem suspicious. Willie was impressed that the Count's son could end the rebellion so quickly. The Count said that his son was his pride and joy. Finally, they got news that the second princess, Juliana, would meet Dia at the border and travel with her to Mangesta. She even planned to invite them to stay at her residence. Willie was surprised to learn that some members of the Estonian royal family were willing to welcome them. But there was one problem: Prince Tobias. Willie heard that Tobias still had a bad attitude, even after hearing that Dia was engaged. Even the Count found it strange, especially since it was clear that Dia wasn't trying to claim the throne. Willie let out a sigh and said that Dia wasn't even high in the line of succession. The Count agreed. He explained that the first in line to become king was the third prince, Matthias. He was the son of the first queen, but he was only 13 years old, too young to rule. The second in line was Tobias, the son of a concubine. Before Matthias was born, Tobias had been trained to become king, so he had always expected the throne would be his. The third in line was the second prince, Elias. He was also the son of a concubine, but he didn't want to become king, and hardly ever stayed at the palace. The first princess had already married a count, so after her came Dia. She was the second child of the queen. After her was Juliana, the second child of a concubine. While the king had been sick in bed for a long time, Juliana took care of many of the kingdom's responsibilities. She became popular with the people because of her fair and kind leadership. Many called her the Princess of Charity. If the kingdom didn't choose rulers based on birth, Juliana would have been the best choice for the next ruler. Willie summed it all up. While the king stayed ill, Matthias wanted to take back the throne when he got older. Tobias was trying to change the rules, and Juliana was working hard to keep her place. Willie said that these three were the ones making nearby countries feel uneasy. Sieg said that Dia had nothing to do at that moment. Dia then wondered if her true identity had been found out. Meanwhile, Willie thought it was strange that the Estonian royal family, who were now known for hating demi-humans, had actually started their kingdom with the help of a divine beast, if he remembered correctly. The Count flinched when he heard that, and Dia noticed it. Willie realized the Count knew something important. Dia asked him to share what he knew about the current situation and about her past. The Count said he had planned to keep the secret forever, but now he had no choice. He confirmed what Willie had said about Estonia's history. The royal family had been protected by a divine beast and had once worked closely with demi-humans. But 500 years ago, something changed. The royal family suddenly became hostile to demi-humans and started seeing them as inferior. From that time on, all books about the divine beast and throwbacks were banned, and the royal family began hiding their true origins, except for one important rule. Willie asked what that rule was. The Count explained that the royal family made sure that any child born with traits of the divine beast, a throwback, would always become king. Everyone was shocked, but Dia was the most surprised. The Count continued. He said this rule couldn't be broken, not even through marriage. It was a secret passed down only in the Balsamud family, who had always helped bring new kings and heirs into the world. Not even the royal family knew the full truth. When Dia was born, the king gave her a magic tool to hide her identity and kept her hidden in the palace. She was only allowed to come out for important ceremonies, and even then, her true traits were kept secret, even from other family members. However, it seemed that Tobias might have found out about this secret. Willie finally understood why Dia was being targeted. The Count also agreed that the people who were supposed to hate demi-humans actually had demi-human blood themselves. Also, the rule that a throwback had to become king was something many people found hard to accept. Dia then asked why this rule was so strict. The Count said he had wondered about that too, so he read some forbidden books. He found out that the rule had existed since the kingdom was first created. There was also an old prophecy. It said that the return of the divine beast to their world would bring disaster. Only the birth of someone with their power and looks would be a sign that this disaster was near. It also said that only people who looked like the divine beasts, throwbacks, could stop the disaster, along with the beasts themselves. Because of that, the rule was made. Throwbacks must become kings, so they could be ready to stop the disaster if it came. Willie then wondered if the current situation they were in was the disaster from the prophecy. The Count said that it could be. Dia said she didn't have any special powers to stop a disaster. She couldn't even feel magic or sense any kind of protection. She didn't know what she could do in her current state. The Count apologized for making her feel worried after sharing all that information. Dia thanked him anyway. She said it was something important to know. She also apologized because she didn't know how to react to everything she had just learned. The Count apologized again when he saw that the princess looked troubled. Willie let out a sigh. He pointed out that the information they got was too vague, and he agreed that anyone would be confused about what to do. He quietly complained about how these beings, who called themselves gods, always gave unclear instructions. Sieg looked at him, wondering if he had said something, but Willie quickly said he hadn't. Then, Willie suggested they calm Dia down first and ended the meeting. He also said they should start including Dia in their talks from now on. Sieg noticed how worried Dia looked. He understood her feelings because thinking about the treasure made him feel nervous too. He began to wonder if there was something he could do to help her, something that only he could do. Meanwhile, over at Mangesta's magic school, the place looked creepy. There were cages hanging from the ceiling. A boy had just broken something, and someone nearby said that even failed experiments still had their uses, especially in their research. The boy told her not to bother him, but the hooded woman continued talking. She said the Empire wanted to see him and planned to use his magic power to activate something in Estonia. She also said that the Empire was unhappy with how that thing was created and wanted to stop their relationship with him from getting worse. She seemed surprised that the boy was going along with the project. She asked what he was really trying to do since no one had ever really known what he was thinking. After saying all that, she said she would go back to class, but reminded him one more time to hurry and go to Estonia. Then the boy angrily said that there was only one thing he had ever wanted. That boy was Gelt. A few days later, Dia stayed in the Abel family's library, still looking for books about the legends of Estonia. But no matter how much she searched, she couldn't find anything useful. Doing nothing only made her feel more nervous. She still couldn't understand how throwbacks were allowed to become kings or why they had the power to stop disasters. If what was happening now was a sign that a disaster was coming, she wondered what her real purpose was as a throwback. If something terrible happened and she couldn't stop it, she feared she might bring harm to everyone around her. Since she didn't know how to use any powers to prevent disasters, she felt lost and unsure of what to do. Emma stood quietly by the door, watching Dia. Sieg walked up and asked if Dia was okay. Emma said Dia had looked sad ever since she heard the story. Even when Emma tried to cheer her up, Dia ended up worrying about her instead. Sieg had expected that. Lately, it had been hard to talk to Dia. He could tell she was keeping everything inside all alone. He wondered if there was a way to help her open up about what she was feeling. Emma said she also wanted to help Dia feel better, but didn't know how. Dia had accepted her as a maid even though she often made mistakes. She had always been kind to Emma. To someone like Emma, who had been left behind and pushed away by others, Dia felt like home. But now, Emma felt useless because she couldn't do anything to help Dia in return. She called herself weak. Sieg told her she was doing just fine and said maybe they could think of a way to make Dia smile. Emma said the only thing she could really do was cook. Sieg agreed. He said her cooking was indeed amazing. After they had walked through the dungeon without resting, her food helped them feel better and even made them smile. Then Sieg got an idea. He surprised Emma by asking for her help to prepare something for Dia. He said it was something only she could do. Soon after, Emma took Dia to another place inside the residence. When they got there, Dia was surprised to see Sieg waiting for her with a table snacks and drinks. He said he thought they could have a tea party. He also said that Emma made all the sweets. Emma told Dia that she remembered the food Dia liked before, so she tried her best to make the tastiest ones. Even if it wasn't much, she wanted to help Dia feel better. Sieg admitted that he also wanted to talk to Dia but couldn't find the right time. So he and Emma planned this tea party. He remembered how sweets helped Dia feel a little better when they were in the dungeon. Dia didn't know what to say. Then Sieg asked her to sit down. Dia thought the tea smelled really nice. Sieg asked if she felt calmer now, and Dia said yes. She remembered that these were the same sweets Emma used to make for her at the palace. She wasn't completely free back then, but those were peaceful days. Now she felt a little sad thinking about them. Just then, Kalsamudi walked past the room. He heard Sieg talking about how strange and confusing it must be for Dia to suddenly find out she had a mission. Dia felt embarrassed. She thought she should be stronger during times like this, but instead she kept thinking of bad things and even blamed the Count in her mind. She felt weak and sad. But what scared her the most was not knowing what to do next. Sieg talked about how he and Dia were alike, which left Dia confused at first. Then he reminded her about the Abel family's treasure that was mentioned back in the dungeon. He shared that someone had told him more about that treasure afterward, and the truth behind it was far beyond what he had imagined. Like Dia, Sieg was also carrying a heavy fate, one that could affect the people around him. He admitted that he didn't fully understand it at first and didn't know how to deal with it either. He told Dia that he understood how she felt. Even so, he had made a decision. He chose to carry that fate because there were people he wanted to protect, and many others were protecting him too. He didn't want to lose those important people because of what he was going through. So no matter how hard things got, he decided to face them. He promised to work hard and become stronger. He wanted to turn this crisis into a chance to grow. He believed that he had the strength and the support of others to do it. He also believed Dia had the same. He had seen how kind she was when she stood up to protect her friends, and how strong she was when she refused to be controlled by others. Even if she didn't yet understand the power she had to stop disasters, Sieg believed she would use that power to create a better future. And if a disaster ever came that was too strong or too scary for her to face alone, Sieg promised he would face it with her. He asked her to remember that she already had people who would protect her. He reminded her that it was okay to ask for help. Emma then spoke up and said that she and the Count would always be by Dia's side. Hearing that, Dia couldn't hold back her tears she had been holding. She had wrongly believed she had to face everything alone. She had forgotten that she was surrounded by people who cared for her. Just like in the dungeon, she now believed they could overcome this too. She wiped her tears, made up her mind, and asked Emma to do something for her. Then she asked Sieg to give her a moment. Princess Dia now looked ready and determined. Soon after, Dia came back wearing the same dress she had worn at the ball. She said she wanted Sieg to see her in it no matter what because it was the look he said he liked. Then she removed the magic that had been hiding her true appearance, showing her demi-human features. Sieg couldn't find the words to speak. Dia admitted that she used to hate how she looked. She was always afraid that the magic would stop working and people would see her ears and tail. But after meeting Sieg, she started to accept her appearance. She said that one day she wanted to show her real self to others, especially to the people who supported her. To do that, she was ready to face Estania and her brother. She now believed she had the strength to do so. Sieg agreed and told her that he believed in her too. He added that he still thought this look suited her better. After the tea party, Emma got busy cleaning the table. Count Balsamud showed up and offered to help carry the plates. He noticed that their lady was finally smiling again. He said meeting Sieg was probably the best thing that happened to her. Emma agreed. Emma also remembered that Dia had left some sweets for the Count, along with a message asking him not to worry anymore. The Count was surprised. He couldn't believe someone like him had caused her concern. He knew how strong Dia was, so he said he wouldn't lose either. No matter what, he promised to protect her again. Emma agreed with him, and so the days went on. Albert kept training. Nikolai was helping his sister recover. Gilbert continued working as usual. Haku was still napping a lot. Sieg and Dia spent their time planning for the future. On the day they were leaving, a new kind of teleportation stone was shown to everyone. Willie said that this finished version was a gift for the royal family. It could be used to travel close to the border of Estania. He promised that it wouldn't take them to a dungeon this time because he had already tested it with someone. Sieg really hoped that was true. Gilbert then told Julius that everything was ready, and the only thing left was adjusting the teleportation. Julius told him to take care of the rest and reminded him to make sure the preparations were complete. Gilbert just hoped that all the work they did wouldn't be wasted. Julius said it was just something he always did out of habit. At the same time, Dia was waiting because she heard they would be meeting up. Sieg showed up and told her that the new teleportation stone was about to be used. He invited her to come and watch it up close. Dia said yes. Sieg told her they would leave for Estonia soon and asked if she was ready. Dia said she was because she didn't feel scared anymore. Sieg then held out his hand and asked her to come with him. Dia took his hand, finally feeling brave enough to go to Estonia. After using the teleportation stone, Willie confirmed that they had finally arrived near the kingdom of Estonia. Sieg was amazed by the large barrier that protected the kingdom. Julius was surprised they had crossed 2 countries so quickly. That's when he realized how powerful the sacred tree, Amrita, really was. Willie said it was also because of how he set up the spell. Sieg then asked if it was okay for them to teleport into another country's land. Julius said they had special permission, but only for this one time. He also explained that teleportation stones could only take them to places that were already marked and prepared ahead of time. He mentioned that the barrier around the kingdom could also keep other countries away. Sieg thought the prince sounded a little scary. Count Balsamud then shared that his son would come to meet them soon. Sieg noticed someone from the Magic Corps looking sick and asked if he was okay. It turned out to be Camille. Camille shouted that he was definitely not okay. Sieg was shocked and asked why Camille was dressed like a Magic Corps member. Camille was just as confused. He couldn't believe that a knight from Estonia was working with another country's magic team. Still groaning in pain, Camille told Sieg not to yell. Willie teased him and brought up the time Camille caused an explosion. Seeing Willie made Camille nervous. He quickly said there was nothing wrong with the teleportation stone and started writing a report. Willie didn't believe it would fail since he had made Camille test it many times. Camille complained that this kind of work wasn't supposed to be his job. Then Dia saw Camille and he started to panic again. Dia was happy to see he was safe. Feeling guilty, Camille tried to say sorry for what happened in the dungeon, but the Count said Camille had already done a good job. He was thankful that Camille returned safely. Willie then said sorry for keeping Dia's knight away for so long, but thanks to checking Camille's memories, they were able to earn Julius's trust. Dia thanked Camille for his hard work. Camille felt proud and honored by their kind words. At that moment, someone arrived and introduced himself as Edmond. He was the son of Count Balsamuda. He came to welcome them because Princess Juliana ordered him to. The Count felt happy to see his son. Edmond also looked relieved because he had heard they were accused of starting a rebellion. He almost jumped out of his seat. The Count said that energy helped stop the rebellion, though. Julius thanked Edmond for coming. Edmond politely greeted the prince, but Julius told him not to be too formal. Then, Julius talked about how amazing the large barrier looked. He said only this place and the magic nation of Lina had such a barrier. He wondered if it was because of the royal family's power. Edmond said that's what people believed. Julius asked what he meant. Edmond explained that the royal family controlled the barrier, but it was too powerful for a person to handle alone. Julius guessed it must be because of the blessings of the divine beast. But the divine beast was supposed to have gone back to the divine world a long time ago. He wondered if it was still in the country. Edmond said it was just a rumor. Then he told them not to stand around and offered to take them to his mansion. If they followed him, they could go inside the barrier. Julius thanked him. As soon as they stepped inside the barrier, Nikolai felt something strange. Theo asked what was wrong. Nikolai scratched his nose and said he smelled something familiar, but he didn't know what it was. Later at the manor, Edmond explained that he had prepared rooms for the Mangesta group. The rest of the guests would stay in the nearby annex. While they were talking, Edmond's son Johann showed up to greet everyone. Edmond reminded him to behave well because they had important guests. Johann said sorry, but then he saw Dia and ran over to hug her. Sieg looked a bit nervous. Johann was surprised to see Dia outside the palace. Dia asked if she could stay with them for a while. Sieg asked if they knew each other, and Dia said yes. She explained that the Count used to bring Johann to the palace to talk with her. Johann then warned Sieg to stay away from Dia. Sieg suddenly felt like he had to compete and said he was Dia's fiancé. Johann didn't understand what that meant, so Sieg proudly said he was going to marry her. Johann called him a liar and said that he was the one Dia would marry. Edmond quickly stopped his son, trying to calm things down. Albert just laughed, and Julius seemed to enjoy watching what was happening. Camille also started complaining about such brats claiming to be Dia's future husband. He didn't know that there was a fake engagement happening. Later, Sieg sat by himself feeling a little upset. Dia and Johann were happily playing with Haku. Sieg didn't like that they were getting along so well, but he kept it to himself and tried to act mature. He wished he had joined the adults' conversation instead. Nikolai teased him and asked if he was jealous. Sieg said he wasn't. Emma tried to comfort him by saying he was Dia's real partner, But instead of feeling better, Sieg felt even worse. Camille grabbed Johann and told him not to touch the princess so casually. Johann reminded Camille that he was the count's grandson, but Camille didn't care. He said that being born into a high status didn't give anyone the right to be rude. Johann then pointed out that Camille only stood beside the princess and shouldn't act like he was in charge. That made Camille angry. He told Emma to read some storybooks to the child. Emma didn't mind at all. Since Camille mentioned storybooks, Johann asked if Dia had heard of the promise of the white wolf and the girl. Dia said it was a famous story in Estonia, but she wasn't allowed to read it. Johann said he loved that story because the girl in it reminded him of Dia. Dia didn't understand what he meant. Camille explained that the story was based on a legend about the white wolf, a divine beast from the divine realm. According to the story, the white wolf accidentally broke the jewel of good heart, which caused a big fight in the human world. To fix what it did, the white wolf came down to the human world and helped a girl who lived in the forest. It gave her its power so she could stop the fighting. Johann was surprised and asked how Camille knew all that. Camille said he read the story when he was younger. In the legend, the place where the war happened later became the kingdom of Estonia. People believed that the divine beast put its power inside the girl before going back to the divine realm. The girl was said to have golden hair and eyes, and she was known for being kind and strong-willed. Johann asked Dia to read the story to him, promising to behave. Sieg also said he wanted to hear about the girl who saved the people. Dia agreed to read it. Johann got excited and told Camille to carry him to the bookshelf. Camille couldn't believe he was taking orders from a little kid. That night, Sieg thought about how fun the day had been. It was his first time playing with so many people. Haku said he also had a good time. The book they read was clearly the same one Camille had talked about. Of course, not everything in it was true, but some parts, like the treasure orb and the divine beast's power, really stood out to Sieg. He hoped the story was a clue about Dia's powers. Willie showed up and mentioned that Sieg had a good time earlier. He said sorry for bothering his rest, but he came to talk about something he discussed with Edmund and to ask for a small favor. Sieg first asked what the meeting was about. Willie said it was mostly the same topic he had talked about before. They talked about the personalities and impressions of the royal family. They also made a few small requests about some installations and mentioned the divine beast. Sieg then wondered if a divine beast really existed in the country. Willie said it was likely, but no one had ever seen it. However, he had found signs of it in the barrier. Both Edmond and Julius had warned everyone to stay careful. Sieg then guessed that they might end up facing the divine beast. Willie said that might happen, or the royal family could be hiding a secret weapon. He also thought the magic school might be involved, but he couldn't tell Sieg much yet because the enemy was still unknown. For now, he suggested that if the enemy wasn't human, they could ask their non-human friends for help. Sieg asked what he meant by that. Just then, a strong wind blew and a woman's voice came with it. It was Frau. She said she would use the wind spirit's connections. Sieg was surprised to see her. Frau said she was always close to wherever Willie was. Willie explained that Frau had links with other spirits, so before going to Estonia, he asked her to place a spirit's protection on a ribbon. Frau said it was hard to convince the other spirits to help because they usually didn't like humans. Willie said the ribbon could protect Sieg from most status effects and magic, even the kind that came from divine beasts, even those which could interfere with the human mind. Sieg was surprised to learn that such magic existed in the country. Willie said he was just giving an example, but whenever he heard stories about Estonia's royal family, one person always stood out. That's why he had prepared the ribbon ahead of time just in case. He told Sieg he would share more once he had clearer information. Willie also asked Sieg to use concealment magic on the charm so no one would notice that it was protected by the spirits. He thought it might not work perfectly since it could even trick his appraisal eyes. Frau added a reward, a big hug, if Sieg could hide it well, but she was already hugging him anyway. Willie wondered if he was being too careful by using the spirit's protection. Still, they were already expecting the worst, so it made sense to be prepared. The next morning, Johann asked if they were leaving already. Dia told him not to worry as they would meet again. Julius thanked Edmond for everything, but Edmond said he was only returning the favor for keeping Dia safe. He reminded them that they were all supporters of Dia now. He told them to be careful on their journey and said they would have a good talk with Juliana. Julius hoped that was true. Before leaving, Willie reminded everyone one last time to wear the charm he had given them. Everyone looked ready and excited to go. He told them it was time to leave. Sieg looked prepared as well. Later at the Estania Palace, the group walked quietly through the hallways. Soon someone greeted them. A girl stood in the middle of the throne room holding a staff. 3 men stood beside her, each with a different look on their faces. These men were the princes, and the girl welcoming them was Juliana. She said they had been waiting for their arrival. She introduced herself as the second princess of the Estania kingdom. She explained that the king had been sick in bed for a long time, so she was the one welcoming them instead. Sieg finally saw Dia's siblings for the first time. Julius began to greet them as the leader of his group, but someone suddenly interrupted with a loud voice. The oldest sibling started scolding Dia for showing herself after going against the kingdom. A noble asked Tobias to calm down. Sieg quickly stepped in to protect Dia when he realized the man was Tobias. Dia then stepped forward and said clearly that she had never hurt the people or their family. She said she respected their traditions, supported the family, and still believed in them even now. Tobias couldn't believe she dared to look at him like that. Juliana asked him to stop and said it was painful to see family members fighting each other. She told him to calm down for their sister's sake. Tobias clicked his tongue, turned away, and warned Dia that it wasn't over. He said he would become king in the end. Sieg noticed Dia's hands were shaking. Juliana apologized and explained that Tobias had not been mentally stable for the past 10 years. Even his own siblings couldn't control him. Willie then said that Tobias's accusations of rebellion were just his imagination, but Juliana didn't fully agree. She said the rebellion was started by enslaved demi-humans, and they had kept saying Dia's name like they were in a trance. It was clear they weren't thinking clearly. She believed Tobias lost control because of that. Willie asked if someone had controlled the minds of the rebels. Juliana agreed, especially after seeing the memory information that Julius shared about the Astania Knights and what happened in the dungeon. She believed the accusations against Dia were false. She also apologized to Dia for the fear and pain she had gone through for so long. Dia thanked her sister for her kindness. Sieg felt relieved. He had been worried after hearing there was a fight for the throne, but Juliana seemed like a kind person. Then Juliana mentioned that she heard the Abel family would join the martial arts tournament. If they won the crown, the kingdom would officially announce Dia's innocence and her engagement. That way, the people would support the event. Julius agreed that it was a good plan. Someone asked if the main discussion was over. The man with black hair asked if he could leave. Dia nodded to her brother Elias. Elias was just happy to see Dia safe and left the rest to their older siblings. Juliana said his words were not proper for a royal. Elias reminded her that he didn't care about politics. As for becoming king, he said they could have the title if they wanted it. After Elias left, Juliana told the Mangesta group that rooms had been prepared for them in the castle town, and someone would guide them there. The remaining royal siblings just stared at the guests coldly. Not long after, Julius started laughing after holding it in for a while. Willie now understood why Julius had gone quiet earlier. Julius said Tobias's words sounded like something a villain would say, and that made him laugh. Willie warned him not to act too casually. Camille also wanted to tell them not to laugh at royalty, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. Nikolai wondered if those were really the right words to say to their sister. Still, Alfred praised Dia for staying calm and steady. He was proud to see her show such strong will at her age. Sieg agreed and said Dia did great. Dia said it was all thanks to Sieg staying by her side. Julius then asked what Willie saw with his eyes, but Willie said he didn't use his appraisal eyes. Julius was surprised since Willie normally used them without hesitation on anyone suspicious. Willie explained that he would have used them if they weren't in Astania. He reminded everyone that the country was protected by a special barrier said to be watched over by a divine beast. If he used his appraisal eyes on royalty here, they would notice it right away. That could make them seem like enemies and all their hard work would be wasted. Until they understood how the barrier worked, it was better not to use his eyes. Julius agreed that using magic carelessly might cause trouble, so he promised to be careful too. Sieg was surprised by his uncle's explanation. Helper confirmed it was true. A divine beast could sense anything through the barrier it created. He also warned Sieg not to use his appraisal eyes carelessly. Sieg wished he had used them before entering the barrier. Just then, someone entered the room and asked for their time. It was the Crown Prince, Matthias, the first in line to the throne. He said sorry for not greeting them earlier and for how rude his brothers had been. Julius said it was no big deal and tried not to laugh as he remembered what happened. He even called it a meaningful experience. Somehow, Matthias believed him. Since the Crown Prince had come to see them personally, Julius asked what special matter he wanted to talk about. Matthias said he wanted to speak with Julius, Albert, Sieg, and Diana. He asked the others to go ahead to their rooms. Sieg asked why they were included. Matthias explained that Albert was joining the tournament, and Sieg was engaged to his sister, so he wanted them to hear what he had to say. Willie stayed quiet for a moment, then said he was going to rest. After everyone else left, Julius asked what the topic was. Matthias shared some serious news. A civil war was about to start in the country. Everyone was shocked. Before anything happened, Matthias wanted them to leave the tournament and go back to Mangesta with Diana. Julius asked why. Matthias explained that the king didn't have much time left. Diana felt sad hearing that. Matthias said that when the king passed away, a big fight for the throne would begin. He believed the oldest brother, Tobias, would try to take full control and get rid of the rest of the family. Even though Matthias was still young and not very experienced, he planned to gather people who would support him as the next king and stand against Tobias. He didn't want Diana or the people helping her to get caught in the middle of the conflict. That's why he was asking them to return to Mangesta right away. Sieg then wondered if this civil war was the disaster from the prophecy. To everyone's surprise, Dia said she wouldn't return. She believed that if a civil war started, the people would be affected, and as a royal family member, she couldn't just leave them behind. Matthias thought she was being reckless because she didn't have the strength to fight back. But Dia explained that she came back to Estonia to gain that strength. She believed she was born for a reason and refused to run away from her country. Matthias didn't fully understand her words and felt confused. He still believed the conflict didn't concern Mangesta and didn't want to cause trouble for others. But Albert disagreed. He said they were connected to the situation. Since their family's homeland was in danger, they needed to face it together. Dia didn't expect him to say that and was surprised. Julius called Albert noble as always and admitted that even though he didn't really want to speak up, he had something important to say. Since the Crown Prince had already talked about the country's internal problems, Julius decided to share what he knew too. He revealed that Mangesta's magic school might be secretly involved in the unrest in Estonia. Matthias was shocked and asked for more details. Julius said he didn't know everything yet. That was one of the reasons he came to Estonia. While his official reason was to help clear Dia's name, he was also trying to learn more about what the magic school was doing. During the martial arts tournament, Albert would compete while Julius would be there as a guest. If it turned out that the magic school really was involved in the civil war, then the royal family of Mangesta would also have to take some responsibility. Julius said he didn't want conflict between the two countries. Matthias asked if they would help stop the civil war. Julius said he couldn't promise anything because they were only there to investigate their own magic school. However, it was possible that while they were investigating, things might calm down. Still, he explained that it wouldn't be something he could control. Matthias took this as a sign that they might help and thanked him. He said he understood Dia's decision but asked her not to push herself too hard. He also asked Sieg to watch over her. Both of them agreed. Before the conversation ended, Matthias warned Albert to be careful. He suspected that Tobias might have prepared something tricky for the tournament. Albert took the warning seriously and thanked him for the advice. After the Crown Prince left, Sieg said that Matthias seemed like a wise and good person. But Julius felt uneasy. He was worried that Matthias, being young, had shared important information with a prince from another country. Even so, Julius admitted that it made Matthias seem trustworthy. As long as the Crown Prince didn't talk about it, Julius hoped nothing bad would happen. Sieg often thought Julius sounded too strict. Since the tournament was going to be tough, Sieg started to worry about his brother. But Albert told him not to. He said that someone from the Abel family should be ready to face any challenge. If he won, Sieg and Dia would get even more support from the people. That thought gave him the strength to keep going. Dia looked like she wanted to say something, her face full of worry. Albert then spoke to her gently. He said he didn't see her as family just because they were engaged. Even though they only lived together for a short time, they shared peaceful and happy moments. He had felt her kindness and saw how joyful she looked when dancing at the ball. That was when he knew he truly wanted her to be happy. Because of that, and for the family he needed to protect, Albert decided to face his challenge with courage. He promised himself that he would win the tournament. Seeing this, Sieg and Dia looked more at ease. They both hoped to see him win. Albert thought they looked adorable and felt a new wave of motivation. He promised to win the crown and lifted both of them in his arms. From the side, Julius couldn't help but laugh. At the same time, in a dark place, someone talked about how Estonia had already sent human reference samples. Because of that, their targets were now limited to humanoids. They then asked how things were going at the martial arts tournament. Someone answered that the Empire had already adjusted the barrier at the venue. After that, they asked where the person watching over Gelt was and what had happened to him. A hooded figure who had met Gelt before said that Gelt would come and the message had already been delivered. The leader of the group reminded everyone that their plan wouldn't work without Gelt's magic. They got angry and asked how long they would let simple students make fun of the Empire. They told the others to break Gelt's limb if they had to and drag him out. One person said it wouldn't be a problem. She took out a bottle and called it a magic pool filled with Gelt's magic. She said it should be enough for the first test. Then, she warned the person holding her to show more respect for Gelt's talent. She made it clear that their students were not tools to be used. The leader grabbed the bottle and replied that a tool was still a tool. If their experiment worked, they would be one step closer to becoming gods. They believed that when their god came down to the Empire, the world would be changed forever. Soon after, loud cheers came from a huge coliseum. Juliana stood in front of the crowd and thanked everyone for waiting. She then officially announced the start of the Estonia martial arts tournament. Many people in the audience said Juliana looked beautiful, but instead of focusing on Tobias, who wanted the throne, they wished Juliana could be their queen. Sieg noticed how popular she was. Juliana explained the rules of the tournament. She said it would follow a knockout style. Only the last fighter standing would win the crown. There were no limits on using magic. She also told the crowd that a magic barrier was placed between the arena and the audience, so no one would get hurt. Somewhere far away, the hooded person from earlier watched the event on a screen. Juliana hoped everyone would enjoy seeing the brave fighters compete. Sieg saw that the tournament was finally starting. He knew he needed to get the ship ready so he could leave as soon as he woke up. Then, the announcer began the first match. The first fighter was Sven, the Ice Wielder, an assassin from the magical city-state of Lynn. He was up against Albert, the heir of the well-known Abel family, also called the Successor. Tobias watched closely with a sharp stare. Juliana and Matthias sat next to each other to watch the match. Sieg hoped his brother would win. This was the official beginning of Estonia's martial arts tournament. Sven was excited to get the rare chance to fight the heir of the famous Abel family. He asked Albert to show how strong he was. Albert said he would do his best for Lynn. Sven then created a barrier around himself and told Albert to come at him. The hooded person from earlier watched as the fight began. Just as Albert started to move, the hooded person activated something. Suddenly, Albert felt very heavy. It was like his magic power was being pulled out of him. Sven noticed something was wrong and took the chance to attack. Albert got surrounded by Sven's magic. Sieg didn't understand what was happening, and Julius said something felt strange. Sieg knew something wasn't right, but he couldn't use his appraisal eyes. If he used them inside the barrier, Tobias might notice and get suspicious. He also saw that Willie wasn't using his either. Sieg wondered if he just had to wait and watch. Albert stayed on the defensive for a while. He realized he didn't have enough magic to summon his partner. He had no choice but to fight with his fists. He rushed towards Sven, who looked angry. Sven thought Albert was insulting him by coming without a weapon. Sven then called out an ice beast. Sieg started to worry, but Willie told him Albert would be fine. Even without appraisal eyes, Albert had a good sense for things. With just one look, Albert found the weak spot of the monster using very little magic. He let the beast eat him, then punched his way out from inside its body. Sven was surprised. Albert used the broken ice pieces as steps to move forward. Sven attacked with a rain of ice shards, but Albert knocked everything aside. He finally got close to Sven and swung his leg. He said he would finish the fight now. Then he slammed a kick filled with fire magic right in front of Sven. The impact kicked up dust and Sven covered his eyes. When he opened them again, Albert's fist was already in his face. Sven had no choice but to give up. It was then announced that Albert had won. Sven called Albert impressive, but it looked like Albert didn't use his full strength. Albert said Sven's skill was great and apologized for not giving it his all. He hoped they could fight seriously next time. Sieg felt relieved that the fight ended safely, but something didn't feel right. Even Julius wondered if Albert would really be okay. Willie said he couldn't see what was happening because of the barrier, and he suggested telling Albert about it. Sieg went to check on his brother and Haku went with him. Sieg's bodyguard Nikolai followed them too. Theo stood up and Willie asked him to check the area while they were gone and handle any small problems on his own. Dia watched them leave and felt worried. Then Willie told Frau not to get caught. He realized that someone was targeting Albert and said things could get complicated. At the same time, Tobias looked upset about Albert's win. Meanwhile, Sieg ran to the waiting room, hoping his brother was okay. Suddenly, Haku sensed something and said that someone was being attacked by some bad people. Nikolai asked what was wrong, and Sieg explained what Haku said. He was worried about his brother, but if someone really was being attacked, he thought they should check it out first. Theo said it would be risky to lose sight of Haku and suggested they follow him right away. Everyone arrived at the place where Haku had felt the attack. Without waiting, he jumped in and used his magic. A person wearing a hood and a mask dodged the attack. The others ran in and asked what the strangers were doing. They warned them to leave if they didn't want to get hurt. Suddenly, Theo appeared behind one of the strangers and held a dagger to his throat, giving the same warning. The strangers were surprised and tried to fight back, but threads wrapped around them and stopped their movements. Theo began to question them, asking why they attacked someone. One of the strangers broke a bottle and in a flash, they all disappeared. A dark shadow appeared on the ground before vanishing. Nikolai and Theo were shocked. Haku felt proud that he and Theo had chased the attackers away. The group then checked on the person who had been attacked. He was groaning in pain, so Sieg quickly used a simple healing spell. The man thanked them, and Sieg asked what had happened. When the man noticed the Abel family crest on their clothes, he suddenly smiled and said he was lucky. He then politely asked them to help his master. While waiting in the room, Albert finally felt his magic power return. He realized that it was the barrier in the arena that had stopped his magic from working. Since his opponent had no problems, Albert figured out that something was stopping only him. He believed it was Tobias, trying to make Dia look like a traitor. Albert knew that if he complained, people would just think he was making excuses for losing. Still, he found it strange that someone had set a trap for him, especially since he was added to the tournament at the last minute. It didn't make sense. Something was definitely going on. He stood up to report what he noticed to his uncle and the prince. On the way, he passed a person wearing a hood who gave off a strange and creepy feeling. The person didn't say anything, and Albert let him pass. He wondered if the hooded figure was an imperial contestant. The person had a powerful presence but for some reason also looked sad. Just then, Albert heard someone call his name. He looked around, confused, not sure where the voice came from. The voice apologized and said she couldn't let others see her. This was the only way she could help. She asked him to follow the light because she had something important to tell him. Something about what really happened during the match. Earlier, the man who had been attacked introduced himself as Louis. He said he was sent by his master to investigate the arena, the Coliseum, but while he was looking around, a mysterious group suddenly attacked him. If no one had helped, he might have died. Theo asked him what he was trying to find. Louis explained that he was investigating something strange that happened during the first round. Sieg then asked if he had discovered anything. Louis said he had searched the arena but didn't find any clues. Still, his master believed it might be a warning of something dangerous. Sieg became uneasy and thought it might be connected to the conflict happening inside the kingdom. Theo asked who Louis' master was. Louis said he couldn't reveal that in public because it was a secret. But if they agreed to work with him, he could take them to his master, who would likely want to speak with them. Nikolai turned to Sieg and asked what they should do. As Sieg's bodyguard, he would follow his lead. Sieg said they also wanted to learn the reason behind the strange events. Theo added that their family was involved now, so they had a reason to help. As Theo looked more closely, he noticed that Louis was wearing a royal guard's uniform. That meant Louis' master was part of the royal family. Theo then said they couldn't fully trust anyone from the Estonian royal family right now, not after what happened with Dia and the false accusations. Since they didn't know who they were dealing with, they couldn't decide anything yet. Just then, someone appeared behind them and spoke in a cold voice, asking how they would decide after seeing him in person. Everyone was shocked to see who it was. It was Elias. At the same time, Albert arrived at the place where the light had led him. To his surprise, he found Juliana waiting there. The big question now was, could the Abels trust these people? Sieg shouted Elias's name. Right after that, Elias threw his robe over his head and it suddenly spread out around them. In a moment, it covered everyone. He quickly apologized and said it would be better to talk in a different place. In the blink of an eye, they were taken to a garden house. Theo asked where they were and Elias told them it was his personal garden. He asked if they liked his magical device and said he made it himself. Then he sat down, introduced himself properly, and told them to just call him Eli. He thanked them for saving Louis earlier and said he already knew their names and backgrounds. Elias explained that he brought them there because he badly needed their help. He wanted their support to remove the darkness that was hurting his country. Theo guessed it had something to do with what happened to Albert. Elias said he wasn't interested in politics, but that didn't mean he didn't care about his country. In his own way, he had been thinking of how to help both the people and the royal family have a better future. But while thinking about that, he realized a big problem was growing. Theo asked what it was. Elias said another country was interfering and might have helped his brother Tobias with something bad. He believed Juliana might know about it too. However, she was too kind and loved her brother so much that she cared for him deeply, maybe too much. Tobias was supposed to be the next king, but everything changed when their father married a new queen and had another son, Matthias. After that, Tobias was no longer the heir. This made him lose control. He became obsessed with the throne and started doing terrible things. He even hurt Dia, who had nothing to do with the royal line. When Elias said this, Sieg realized that Elias didn't know the secret of the throwback. Elias went on and said he had decided to stop Tobias, but he didn't expect the enemy to be so watchful. He felt sorry for Louis, but Louis blamed himself, saying it was his own weakness. Now that Elias had stepped in, he knew he wouldn't be ignored anymore, even if he had no interest in becoming king. That's why he needed their help to investigate a place called the Coliseum. Still, he wondered if the Abels were completely unrelated to the outsiders who were interfering. Nikolai got angry and asked if they were being suspected too. Sieg started to worry about how much Elias really knew. Elias told them not to get the wrong idea. He hadn't forgotten what they did for Dia. He only meant that if they worked together, it could help both sides. Suddenly, a strange light appeared and asked what kind of benefits they were talking about. Sieg was shocked when he heard his uncle's voice. Elias thought it might be Willie speaking. He didn't expect to hear from him so soon. Elias said that since things had gotten hard for the children, he decided to step in. He explained that he used a friend's power to send his voice to them. Sieg noticed that Frau was following them. Willie said he had heard everything Elias just said and admitted that he had looked into them a little. Elias said that part of what he knew was just guesses because protecting Dia based only on kindness was too risky. Willie said he was willing to work with Elias under one condition. Elias asked what it was. Willie wanted to know if it was possible to sense someone using magic inside the national barrier. Elias smiled a little and said yes, they could. He explained that the barrier would give a warning if a member of the royal family were in danger from magic, or if someone wanted to kill them. For the person who becomes the king of Estonia, the protection would be even stronger. He said it was like a royal benefit. As long as the king stayed inside the barrier, no magic or weapon could hurt them. But it didn't protect their health, which is why the king was sick and stuck in bed. Elias joked that maybe the king ate too much unhealthy food and blamed him for getting sick. Sieg felt uncomfortable hearing Elias talk badly about his father. Elias said their father had always been selfish, and not all families got along well. Then he warned them not to use magic against him. He asked Willie if he had gotten the information he needed. Willie said it was enough and agreed to work with him. Elias thanked him and said that was all for now. He told the others he would send them back to where they came from and hoped their cooperation would bring good results. Albert found Juliana in a quiet, hidden spot. She said she was trying to get away from Tobias, who was always watching her. She also apologized for calling Albert over in such a sudden and rude way. Juliana told him she had seen him struggle during his match, but Albert said he was feeling better now. That made Juliana feel relieved. Still, she couldn't believe that Tobias had done something to the arena, and that was why she wanted to talk to Albert. She explained that Tobias had been visiting the Colosseum often with someone else ever since it was decided that the tournament would be held there. When she asked Tobias about it, he refused to tell her anything. In the end, Albert got hurt, and Juliana said sorry again. Albert told her it was okay. He knew she was also doing her best. For now, he said they should stay calm and figure out what to do next. Juliana admitted she had lost control of her emotions and said sorry once more. Albert remembered how calm she used to be and wondered if this was what Juliana was really like deep down. Then Juliana started to explain what was really going on. She believed Tobias was planning something terrible, something that could hurt the people he cared about, even his own brothers and sisters. She couldn't let her brother go down such a dark path. Even though Tobias had changed into a cold and cruel person after getting his heart broken, she still wanted to save him and protect their homeland. After all, Tobias was her brother. They shared the same mother. But before she could help him, she had to make sure no one else got hurt. So she asked Albert to drop out of the martial arts tournament. Albert refused to back down. He said he had already promised Sieg and Dia that no matter what happened, he would win and have Juliana bless their happiness. He told Juliana that the problem in Estonia could no longer be ignored. They would do everything they could to stop Tobias. Juliana saw how serious he was. She saw that he had a strong will and was ready to face danger for his family. She wanted to be like that too. She thanked him for his help. Albert said there was no need to thank him because he would do his best to keep Tobias from finding out about their plan. Juliana then said goodbye. She looked forward to the day he would keep his promise and succeed. After the princess left, Albert realized she didn't really seem to want the throne. It felt like the responsibilities were just given to her without her choice. He thought of her as someone who only cared about her country and her family. Just then, Sieg found him. Albert asked why they were outside. Theo explained that they didn't see him in the waiting room, so he used Wind Scout to look for him. Sieg asked if Albert was okay, and Albert said he was fine. Then they asked why he was in such a quiet place. Albert told them he had just met with Juliana. They were surprised. Theo said that Elias had also just met with them to help check the arena. Albert noticed that the royal family of Estonia was starting to act. He wondered if they were really trying to fix their country's problems, or if they were setting a trap. Willie then showed up and told Albert not to jump to conclusions. He asked Albert if he could share what he talked about with the princess. Albert decided to tell them. Afterward, Willie realized that the two of them also wanted to stop the conspiracy happening in the Colosseum. If that was the case, then they were actually on the same side. Still, he said there were some things about them that seemed suspicious. Albert asked what he meant. Willie explained that Elias knew a lot about the national border, which seemed unusual. He also pointed out that Juliana had too much power in the country, especially considering her current situation. Albert said it wasn't strange for someone from the royal family to know about borders, and maybe Tobias was using Juliana to help him stay in power when he became king. Willie admitted that was a fair point. Everything they said seemed to make sense. Then he created a hologram of the arena and the area underneath it. Even though Elias warned him not to, Willie took a risk and used a search spell on the arena. He made sure it looked mostly accurate so no one would notice. The spell had a wide range, which made Sieg suspicious at first. But then he realized the enemy hadn't noticed the spell at all. Because of that, Willie discovered 2 hidden spots underground. Nikolai asked if they could check those places from a distance, maybe by using appraisal eyes, but Willie told him that appraisal eyes weren't that powerful. As the name suggested, they could only check things that could actually be seen. Sieg's version worked the same way, so if they wanted to find out more, they had to go there themselves. Willie said they should still check it out even if it was a trap. But it was time for Albert's second match, and it would look suspicious if their seat was empty. Willie said he would come up with a plan while Albert was fighting. Albert understood. Sieg told his brother to be careful, and Albert said not to worry, it would be an easy match. Before Albert left, Willie gave him some advice. If Albert made it to the finals, he would probably fight someone from the Empire. Willie had watched that fighter's match and said that Albert, as he was now, couldn't win. He told him to do what he could, but warned that the opponent was part of an Imperial experiment. After that, Albert won his second match. The suspicious people were surprised that he was still able to continue, even though his magic power was getting weaker. They started to think the device might not be working right. One of them told the other to check the prototypes in the back, which showed that there were no problems with how the magic power was being taken. This also meant that the adjustments were going well. The person who had doubts felt better, but then their attention turned to the Estanian royals. They remembered making a deal with them. They said that even though some things happened that they didn't expect, the setup was a success. As long as the royals came into that place, even while it was still being tested, it would be enough. Tricking important people with Tobias's act turned out to be an extra reward. As long as the royals stayed in the country, the people of Mangesta would be treated like farm animals. The suspicious group planned to take everything from them. Then a creepy dark shadow appeared behind one of the suspicious people. Later at an inn, Willie welcomed Theo back and praised him for getting better at hiding his presence. Theo told them that the Colosseum security had gotten tighter, and when he tried to go in, some kind of magic blocked him. Willie had hoped they could finish everything before the final round, but now it looked like their enemy wasn't careless. Julius said he didn't want to cause problems with other countries. Willie found it annoying that Julius was suggesting they stop sneaking in. Julius reminded him that international problems were always hard to deal with. Since they had no choice for now, Julius told everyone to rest and get ready for the next day. Sieg then asked what the plan was. Willie said not to worry and that he would explain. He told them to split into two groups. There were two strange places under the Colosseum and they might be connected to the incident. The next day, they would enter the upper area through a hidden path in the arena. But there was no door to the lower area, so they would probably need to dig to reach it. The first group who would check the upper area would be Haku, Theo, and Nikolai. Albert didn't like that Sieg was going. But Willie said Sieg's skills could be trusted, and Albert knew that. Albert looked at Sieg with worry. Sieg said he couldn't let his brother face all the danger alone, and he would go even if it was risky. Nikolai reminded Albert that they had fought monsters before and won. Theo also promised to protect Sieg this time, no matter what. Albert gave in and asked them to make sure they all came back safely. Willie was glad to hear that and said he would take care of the lower area himself. Dia looked worried and asked if he was going alone. Willie told her he'd be fine. They didn't have enough people after all. Dia asked if there was anything she could do. Willie thanked her but said it wasn't the right time yet. Dia felt bad but understood. Then Camille stepped forward and offered to go instead of Dia, since he was her sword and it was his job to protect her. He said he would help Willie, but in return he asked Willie not to call Dia useless again. Willie wasn't sure if it was okay to leave Dia with fewer guards, but Camille didn't have an answer. So Dia said it was fine and thanked Camille for going in her place. Camille promised to protect her no matter what. Camille told everyone to leave it to him. Albert asked Dia to cheer him on too. Now that everything was settled, Willie reminded them that the next day would be important. Before Albert's match, their mission would begin. Both groups looked ready. The next day, the martial arts tournament continued, and it was time for the final match that everyone had been waiting for. Around that time, Tobias noticed that a few members of the Mangesta group were missing. Juliana explained that the youngest member, Sieg, got sick from the long trip and the others stayed behind to take care of him. But Tobias didn't believe that so many people were needed to care for one sick person. He thought they were planning something. He then gave a command to his right-hand man, Vigar. He told him to make sure someone used the Empire's puppet to attack the Abel family's heir right in front of Dia. Tobias wanted her to watch and suffer. Dia felt helpless. She couldn't do anything but hope that everyone would be safe. A short while earlier, Sieg's group had arrived at the first location. Nikolai thought they had reached a dead end and didn't believe there was an entrance. But Theo said they were in the right place, though the entrance was hidden by something high-tech. He had already tried to find the magic seal but failed. Then Sieg touched the wall, and a door appeared. He said he had found the trick by luck and turned it off. He couldn't tell them that Helper had shown him how. Nikolai guessed it was just Sieg's usual feeling at work. Sieg was just relieved that they didn't question him too much about his powers. But that wasn't the main issue. Right now they had to help Albert, who was in danger. Sieg was ready to do anything to protect him. Theo reminded them to finish things before their brother's match began. The group walked through a hallway that looked normal, but Nikolai felt something was strange about the walls. Theo reminded him not to let his guard down, especially in enemy territory. Suddenly, Haku sensed something and told them to stop. He said he smelled something odd. Right then, a strong wind blew through the area, catching them off guard. When they opened their eyes, they saw strange creatures all around them. Nikolai was actually glad the enemies finally showed up. Sieg didn't wait. He used powerful water magic that flooded the area. The attack was strong and fierce. Nikolai was impressed, but Theo warned that more enemies were on the way. Nikolai stepped forward and said it was his turn. He punched the ground, creating a wall of light energy, and then charged ahead like a bulldozer, smashing all the enemies in his path. Just as Theo felt proud of his move, another enemy came from above. Luckily, he reacted quickly and took down the attacker while still holding Sieg. He pointed out that Nikolai was moving too fast for Sieg to keep up. So Theo offered to take the lead and asked Sieg and Haku to guard the sides while Nikolai protected the back. Theo charged forward with Sieg and Haku helping from the sides. Nikolai made sure nothing got past him from behind. Sieg watched how well everyone worked together and realized how much stronger they had become. With this kind of teamwork, he believed they could save Albert. Soon the group reached a huge, tall door. Nikolai wondered if the mysterious space they were looking for was behind it. Sieg thought they still had time before the match started, so he wanted to finish this first. Theo and Nikolai pushed the door open, and Sieg was shocked by what he saw inside. At the same time, Camille asked Willie if he was really planning to dig a hole through a national building. Willie said it was a direct request from Elias, so he would probably be forgiven. He was about to begin, but Camille stopped him. Camille then used a special kind of magic that didn't belong to any element. It helped reduce how much magic power they used. Since he came as Dia's representative, he didn't want to be useless. Willie thanked him, saying it helped his shoulders feel better. With a small stomp, the ground around them suddenly sank. Camille was shocked and didn't understand what just happened. He called Willie a monster for doing something like that so easily. Willie said he needed some light and asked if Camille could use fire magic. Camille quickly created a small flame. They kept going deeper underground. Curious, Camille asked why Willie sent the others to the upper levels. Willie explained that it was better for him to come to the lower area instead. Then he asked if Camille even knew what was hidden beneath the royal capital of Estonia. Camille only knew about a shelter or a storage space used for emergencies. There were other things too, but Willie found it strange that the lower area was so deep. It looked like it could interfere with the arena above and seemed too large and advanced to be made by humans. Camille, now worried, asked what Willie really meant by that. At that moment, the ground shook hard like an earthquake. The digging came to a stop and Willie felt something strange. He told Camille that they might be close to learning Estonia's secret. Then he broke through a wall, and Camille was shocked to see a dungeon underneath them. Willie had a feeling it was a dungeon, and he was right. Camille couldn't believe it. He had never heard anything about a dungeon in that area. Willie explained that the barrier in front of them wasn't made by humans. Since even the royal guards didn't know about the dungeon, it meant the royal family had hidden it on purpose. Willie could only guess that a god might be involved. Just then, enemies showed up from above. Camille reacted fast and blocked the attack. Along with the hooded attackers, dark shadow-like creatures also appeared. Camille became confused by what was happening. Willie used his appraisal eyes and noticed something strange. One of the enemies was from the Empire and was controlling magical creatures created by the Magic Academy. The enemies were shocked that he could tell. Willie said their plan wouldn't work because his eyes could see through their masks and cloaks. He started to figure things out. He thought it was strange that a test subject was part of the tournament. Now he realized Tobias was working with both the Magic Academy and the Empire. But Willie believed that the Academy and the Empire had been working together from the start. He told Camille to use the same magic he used earlier. They needed to deal with the enemies quickly and meet up with Sieg and the others. If they didn't, something even worse than a civil war might happen in Estonia. Meanwhile, Sieg was confused when he saw a giant statue-like figure standing behind the door they had just opened. That is the end of the recap at chapter 28.1. Please read the pinned comment about the next part.